Raider Nation, what's going on? It's the final live show before the 2025 NFL Draft. Thank the frickin' Lord. I love talking about the draft. I love talking about prospects. But sooner or later, you get to a point where you're like, all right, man, let's just do the damn thing. If you haven't already, make sure you guys smash that like button. Believe it or not, it does help us out a lot here on the show. We're going to be answering some questions, so make sure that you use hashtag Raiders or Super Chat if you want to skip the line. And the next time that you are going to see me, unless there is breaking news tonight or if there is breaking news tomorrow, next time you're going to see Jeremy Chuggs and I, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific for the NFL Draft. We're going to be going live 2 hours before. Raiders pick at number 6, and I plan on getting pretty reckless on draft night. We got 305 people here in the building. If you haven't yet, make sure you vote at the poll up top, which is who do you want? Not who do you think, who do you want the Raiders to draft? Ashton Jeanty, Armand Membou, or do you think it's going to be somebody else? And we are going to be getting into some Raiders news. Over the weekend, I spoke with Kolton Miller. I'll kind of tell you some of the things that Miller and I talked about. We'll also get into some interesting rumors around a brand new player that I have heard in the last 24 hours being linked to the Raiders in round 1. You're going to have to keep that one on the lookout. Some updates around Ashton Jeanty. Spoke to somebody today from ESPN in regards to Jeanty. We'll talk about that a little bit.
Jeanty.
Hey, some people might say it's Jeanty. Also, interesting NFL trade rumors, and Chuggs can attest to this. The amount of trade rumors, and again, this is smokescreen season, but you got to admit, we got a lot of trade rumors today at Chat Sports.
Oh, it is
a lot of trade talks.
It is off the rails right now with all the trade talk, all the trade rumors that are going around right now. I mean,
smoke screens.
Because this could be, and I have to look back. I'm going to have to get this, exact number before we start our live draft show this Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific.
There you go.
I think this might be the first draft in a long time where we could see the possibility of every team making a selection in round 1.
Oh, boy. I mean, it hasn't happened in, you got to go back, it's like 20 or 30 years. It's been really
a while
long time
since every single team had a round 1 selection in the draft.
Yeah,
so
it's been a while. I actually think it's all the way back to like 1993.
And I think this question actually ties in perfectly because the only way I see it where not every team has a first-round pick is if a team trades back into round 1, more than likely for a quarterback.
So how many quarterbacks go in round 1? We know Cam Ward's going to be the number 1 overall pick. We already know that.
I see all the golden fake Warriors fans in the chat right now.
Let's go,
It's
Dubs.
one game. One game.
Let's go, Dubs.
The Rockets still have it. It's one game.
I'm telling you, the moment that game ended, there's times where I get DMs. Like after Raiders games, obviously we get a lot of DMs. After that Warriors-Rockets game, the amount of DMs I got that were like, make sure you check on Chuggs, and all that bullshit.
It's one game.
Keep sending them. Let's freaking go, man. Let's freaking go. Seriously, how many quarterbacks are going to go in round 1? Abe's going to go with 2.5. 2 quarterbacks for Noctum. Cam Ward's going to go number 1 overall. And, this has been a topic of discussion that I've been putting out there on social media, and maybe it's an unpopular thing. I don't know if Shedeur Sanders is guaranteed to go in round 1. I could say Shedeur could go in round 1. Jalen Milroe could go in round 1. Tyler Shuck could go in round 1. Jackson Dart could go in round 1. But, there are a lot of rumors out there on the quarterbacks potentially sliding on top of that. So I am still going to say that I believe 2 quarterbacks do go in round 1. I still would say that I see Shedeur going in round 1 or Jackson Dart going in round 1. Jalen Milroe is going to the draft.
Tyler Shuck.
See, that's the only one. That's the one where I don't really see him going in round 1. I know that there's a lot of rumors. There was one report that said there is one team that has Shuck as the highest rated quarterback on their board. All it takes is one team. It's going to be interesting, man. Let's go to Blink. What's up, Blinky? I'm actually excited for a Raiders draft. This is a weird feeling. See, I would say this. We are always excited for a Raiders draft. The problem is maybe you're just not as nervous as what we've been in years past. Like last year also, I was confident that, Telesco and AP were going to do what they thought was best available, and I thought that they did a good job in the draft. The years previous, though, it was a nerve-wracking feeling because you just never knew what was going to happen, and You know, it kind of felt like a Raiders game day on a Sunday where you wake up early and you're like, let's freaking get this thing going. And by the end of the night, you're like, I don't know why I keep doing this to myself. And that's how the first round of the NFL draft felt.
And speaking of exciting,
yep,
I have been up the past couple nights watching not only the NBA, but the NHL. These hockey games are going insane. And I know game one between the Golden Knights and the Wild, I mean, it went Vegas' way, right? Vegas is leading 1-0 in the series.
So I've been wanting to talk about Game Time because I actually have a hilarious story from over the weekend, and maybe some of y'all heard what I talked about today on the video that I put out this morning, but today's show is sponsored by Game Time, and I'm going to tell you my story here in just a moment. But first, if this is the first time you're hearing about Game Time, I want you to download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS. That's CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today, and if you're wondering what time is it, it's Game Time. Now, often people will always ask, Mitch, why do you like Game Time? Why do you use it? Chugs, can you show like where it shows the bowl? Yep, perfect. So over the weekend, I am talking to my fiance, Alex, and her sister wants to buy Rangers tickets, okay? And I go, well, where are we going to be sitting? So this view right here is one of my favorite views that Game Time offers because you can see where you're going to be sitting. Now, if I told you that you got tickets to sit third base at a baseball game, that's pretty good seats, right?
That's pretty, I would say it's pretty good.
Pretty good seats. She shows me the tickets, section 300. So she thought section 300 meant third base at a baseball game. But when you look at the bowl pick, if she would have used this picture, she would have been able to see that section 300 is like way, way up there, like in the nosebleed. Yeah, you're on the third base side, but you're nowhere close to the action. My point is, for people like I would say that actually know sports, and maybe that's an unfair way to put it, because again, you can use Game Time, anybody can use it, but not everybody knows where you're sitting, and that's a big part of experiencing, the game that you're going to, especially if you're going to spend the money. But yeah. I love the bull picks, and I also think that this is great for people, again, who don't go to a bunch of events out there. That's my funny Game Time story, because as soon as I heard, third base, that's six. Section 300. Wait a minute. One of these things are not exactly working out. So again, huge shout out to Game Time. And you can save up to 60% off by buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater. Game Time Picks makes last minute ticket buying easier than ever by quickly highlighting the best deals in the stadium. If you're wondering what time is it, it's game time. All right, y'all. So we got over 400 people already here in the building. If you want to get your questions, comments on the show with hashtag Raiders or skip the line like Blinky and White Hat, we're able to do. The other segment that I got coming up here is going to be my final Raiders mock draft. And I've put out so many mock drafts at this point. You already know that. And I do different ones where I'm like, all right, this one I'm going to make trades. This one I'm going to do if it was Pete Carroll and John Spytek. This one is going to be for Chip Kelly. I do a whole bunch of different mocks. This mock draft is if I was sitting in the war room with Tom Brady, with John Spytek, with Pete Carroll, and we're all just going to go through what I think that the Raiders could do, and it's also a little bit of what I could do. So here's the important question, because I'm going to ask you another one very similar. Who do you want the Raiders to draft at pick number 6?
Not who do you think.
Exactly. Who do you want? It's the number one player that you want. For people that watch the show, I want Armand Membou. And it's been the pick that I've had for months now, I would say, at this point. Yes, there's other options that the Raiders could go with that I would be happy with, of course. But the number one pick that I want is Armand Membou, offensive tackle from Missouri. Can't control life, says Cam Ward. I hate to break it to you. That one ain't happening. Ashton Jeanty from Jason and Lou Atkins. What up, my man? Armand Jeanty from Blinky. There you go. That's the way to do it. Edgar Sosa says Sanders. Sanders will definitely not be the pick, though there is a chance if Sanders falls that... here's the thing. I literally think that there's a chance that Sanders could fall into the 20s, right? It's where I could see him end up going. And then you could potentially see a team try to trade back up. But if a team like the Saints that's been reported that likes Jackson Dart more than Shador, what if they take Jackson ahead of him? What if Tyler Shuck? There is a chance, and it's been reported that Sanders could be the third quarterback taken. Could be the fourth quarterback taken.
I see a McMillan. I see Jalen Walker.
McMillan would be interesting.
I see Will Johnson.
Chugs at 6.
Sanders.
Chugs at 6 from YP.
Great value.
I mean, literally, you would be great value brand.
Yes.
At 6.
That's what I meant.
Will Johnson from Tristan. Will Johnson is a candidate that I would say would be a round 1 target if the Raiders trade back, which we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Gutierrez says a kicker. Get out of here, man. AR Zach's going to go with Jeanty. Membou from Ruthless Raider. That's my man right there. Jeanty, he will have a monster running game from Harold Green. I guess here's my only other question out there to people that want the Raiders to draft Jeanty. How many years is Ashton Jeanty a Raider then? How many years are you, because if you're taking a running back at 6, how many years do you project that Ashton Jeanty is going to be that dude for the Raiders? I mean, a 5-year, 6-year career for a running back's a long time. A 5 or 6 year career for an offensive lineman, not nearly as long. What's up, White Hat? One thing for sure, Spytek has folks guessing on our pick. Smoke everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And I always say, where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's definitely a lot of smoke around right now.
It's like my garage last Saturday night. Smoke everywhere.
Which I don't know if that's good or not. That's up to y'all. It sounds like you need to turn your car off. I have said this. I really believe that right now you could make an argument of why the Raiders would pick Jeanty, why the Raiders would pick Membou, why the Raiders would pick Will Campbell, why the Raiders would pick Jalen Walker, why the Raiders are going to go John A. Barron, Will Johnson, why the Raiders could go, I don't know if I said Jalen Walker, but there are, I would say, 7 players right now that legitimately I can make an argument around the Raiders could go this direction, and you're right. There are a lot of people guessing right now. I had the opportunity today. I joined a show with ESPN. Shout out to Anita Marks for the request. And she was like, where do you think that the Raiders are going to go? And Anita was like, I'm great friends with Spytek. Where do you think John's going to go? And I said that there's a lot of different routes that you can go. But I also said if I was the Raiders and I wanted to trade back, start leaking out information that you want an offensive tackle. 3 days later, a lot of leaks around the Raiders being interested in an offensive tackle like Armand Membou. What's up, my man, Nathan Wolf? Appreciate you, dude. Chugs, thanks for Tucker. Been a beast for the Cubs, just no relief.
He's been great.
I haven't really watched much baseball.
2 of the best players in the MLB so far this year, Alex Bregman and Kyle Tucker. If only the Astros could get one of those guys.
The problem is, I legitimately have no idea about baseball right now.
I just hate baseball.
I know the NL West is
I just hate baseball sometimes because it's this is the only league where it's your owners have no excuse. There's no salary cap. They could have made it happen. They're just cheap.
Sure.
Or it's
yeah.
It's not like these NFL teams who can hide behind, I can't make it happen. We only have so much salary cap space.
Yeah.
The Dodgers are paying everybody. The Dodgers are paying their 5th guy on the bench more than the Astros are paying some starters. So it's
yeah, I mean, I forget what it was, but it was Juan Soto's contract is more than the Athletics have paid their players the last 30 years. It was an outrageous stat, which that's kind of the problem with baseball right now. Let's go to Rich Wolf. Rockets. Cockets. Amen. Can't lock it. Dubs in 5.
One game, Rich Wolf.
You have to admit, though, there was a little bit of, the Warriors were the better team.
They got lucky.
They were clearly the better team. Gruden would pick a water boy. And you know what? You might not be wrong with that. When you go back and you look at all the missed picks by Gruden, it actually blows my mind that there was a draft in 2019, which, again, we got Crosby. So it is what it is. But wasting the picks the way that the Raiders have wasted picks before is definitely frustrating. And I saw some people saying that Max interviewed Shedeur Sanders today. Yes, I did see that Max interviewed him. You guys also got to remember, Max and Shedeur are really good friends, childhood type of friends. So they go way, way back. And I think it's a smart move by Max, quite frankly. I still would be absolutely shocked if the Raiders ended up taking Shedeur at number 6. And I've also said this. The only way that the Raiders take Shedeur Sanders is if Tom Brady or Mark Davis make him do it. Now, Brady will be in the war room with Spytek and Pete Carroll. But also, you don't hire Pete Carroll to make him do something. If you were going to make him do something, you would have just kept Antonio Pierce and Tom Telesco. At least that's my personal opinion. But I would say that there is a better chance, and you can call me crazy if you want, there's a better chance the Raiders draft Shedeur at 37 than drafting him at 6. I'm telling you that right now. Also, one of the segments we got coming up here on today's show, round 1 draft targets. And we're going to talk about players that I could see the Raiders taking at 6. We're going to talk about players that if the Silver and Black do trade back, and I got to even say this, Adam Schefter broke down teams that he thought could trade back. The Raiders weren't one of the teams that he mentioned. So maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't happen. I'm not 100% sure. But there are players that have been linked to the Raiders that I don't see them taking at number 6. But if there's a trade back, then they could be on the radar. And then I also am going to talk about some prospects that I could see the Raiders trying to trade back up into round 1-4. So the first question I asked you was, who do you want? Now this is different. Who do you think the Raiders are going to draft at pick number 6? Who do you think Pete Carroll and John Spytek on draft night, that podium, Roger Goodell, boo the shit out of them. Who are they going to announce that you think the Raiders are going to go with at number 6? I would say the highest odds are Ashton Jeanty.
Josh Connolly Jr.
It's funny you say that. There was a lot of hype around Josh Connolly, not to the Raiders, but going a lot earlier than expected.
Top 10. He's starting to get some top 10 hype.
The Raiders did meet with him on a top 30 visit, I believe.
Top 30, top 10. Top 6?
No chance. I guess I shouldn't say no chance. If the Raiders go with an offensive lineman that people really haven't heard about, it's not Josh Connolly. I think it's... I'll tell you who I think it is later. It's in the show.
Teaser.
It's in the show. I don't want to give it away.
He's teasing y'all so much right now.
It's in the names that it's not Membou and it's not Will Campbell. Like... To me, there is an offensive lineman that's being thrown around the Raiders right now at number 6. I think it would be a massive reach at 6, but there is some smoke around another player. Let me see what we got here, though. Big Vic says that he thinks the Raiders are going to go with Membou. My only question to everybody who's typing Membou, don't you find it strange that the Raiders don't have a top 30 visit, no combine visit, no pro day visit, and they're going to take somebody at 6? Like, that's very interesting to me. I love Membou, but I also feel like I know this Raiders squad.
I will say,
and they haven't done that yet.
So I will say this, and I guess it doesn't exactly fit because, to your knowledge, they didn't meet with him at the draft or other things. But whenever I interviewed Aaron Wilson, he said one thing that kind of stuck out to me was teams do top 30 visits a lot to get to know players better.
Sure.
And if they already feel like they have a read on somebody, and if they already feel like they know about that player, they won't bring him in for a top 30 visit. So the Texans, they are very interested in Emeka Egbuka. They did not bring him in for a top 30 visit. They met with him at the Combine, and obviously him and Stroud have a connection there. So they were like, we don't want to waste one of our top 30 visits on somebody we already know about.
And I get that logic. I also feel like, though, the Raiders, the amount of top 30 visits that they brought in on prospects that they already knew about.
Yeah.
And when you see the players that they've signed, I know we've said this 100 times already, but relationships clearly matter to this organization. They do. And maybe there was a meeting with Armand Membou that we don't know about. Maybe. I don't really know. It wouldn't be a top 30 visit, but...
Maybe a draft visit?
Something. I'm not sure. Let's go to Suave. What up, my man? Don't get mad at my Dodgers because we pay our players. Yep. Yes, you do. And that's the annoying part. I love baseball, but the salary cap issue in baseball is really annoying to me. And 162 games, way too many games. Looks like both Rockets and my Lakers out in 5. Here's my question to the people watching. Who's more likely to lose in 5? Lakers or Rockets? R for Rockets, L for Lakers.
That's not a fair question.
Why?
Because I already know what they're going to say.
Dude, I don't know. The way the Lakers looked the other night, they look like they might get their shit pushed in. Like, I watched both of those games, and I'm not trying to sit up here and act like I watch a lot of NBA basketball, but I would say the Lakers look like they're in way more trouble than the Rockets did, to me. The
Rockets cut it down to 3 points at the end of the game. Curry just hit insane shots.
I mean, when Curry's making the shots that he was making, I mean, that one fadeaway 3 he had on the right wing going out of bounds, that one went in. Then the one at the top of the
It's just like, what do you even do?
You can't do anything.
It's like that guy that we faced in game 1 of the Jewish basketball league.
Yeah.
That's what it was like watching Curry last night, where you're just like,
I mean, when
my hand is literally on his nose.
What that game reminded me of, and I always go back to this game because the Steph Curry just throwing them up and they're going in. It reminds me, and how many people remember this game, back in 2019, the final year in Oakland. Raiders are beating the Chiefs 10-0. We go into that second quarter, and Patrick Mahomes in the second quarter alone threw for 4 touchdowns. They were up 28-10, and it was like, what's his name? I think it was Marcus Valdez-Scantling. Went for like 6 for 177 and 3 touchdowns in one quarter. And it was every ball Mahomes was throwing up. It didn't matter if there was pressure on him or not. It was every throw. I mean, it was breadbasket every single time. And sometimes when you're on a heater like that, you literally can't do anything about it. It was brutal, dude.
Roy.
Brutal. What's up, Roy? Can we see a team like the Broncos jumping us to number 5? Chugs, ooh. Rockets better bounce back.
That would be a long way to go because the Broncos are picking at 20.
In all honesty, I would say the furthest jump that I could see a team going to get to number 5, the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, and also you have to think, who would be there at 5 that the Broncos would be willing to mortgage some of their future to go get?
I think that they're willing to do it for Jeanty.
Really? Because it's like their O-line's already set.
Yep.
They had one of the better O-lines last year.
So one of the reports that I read was apparently Ben Johnson likes the idea of getting a running back like Jeanty and pairing him with DeAndre Swift to recreate the offense that they did in Detroit with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery.
I was saying for Denver.
Oh, yeah, Denver. There's
nobody that they would go up to number 5 to mortgage the future.
I also think Denver likes Omari and Hampton a lot.
Yeah.
So to go that far, no. I would say the number 1 team that I'm worried about right now, jumping the Raiders, especially if you want Ashton Jeanty, because according to reports, like Schefter is overly confident that Mason Graham's not going to go to the Jags. And I sometimes wonder when there's reports out there like that, because the Jags right now, it's very up in the air what they could do. I could see the Jags being a team that does try to trade back, accumulate some more picks. And if you're Chicago, a team that traded they traded this offseason to get 3 interior offensive linemen. You know what I mean? Like they traded to get a center, a left guard, and a right guard. Clearly value the running game. And I could see them trying to do everything they can to make Caleb Williams' life a little bit easier. Appreciate you, Roy. Let's go to Mark Membou, but I'm worried because didn't meet with him at all. And I'm kind of in the same boat. It doesn't worry me that the Raiders didn't meet. Like, if you tell me right now the Raiders up there on draft night, Armand Membou is the name that's called, I'm not going to sit there and go, shit, we didn't meet with them. It's my mind is like when people ask me, do you think Armand Membou can be the pick? I got to be able to sit there and go, I think he might be the best player available. Him and Jeanty, to me, are the 2 best players available up there with a guy like Mason Graham. But then because of, I know that this organization values relationships, they clearly do. That's why the Membou pick to me is it could be a smokescreen. Like, we could sit here and go, why didn't the Raiders pick Membou? It could be an actual smokescreen because I think teams are going to trade up for an offensive tackle because teams won't be trading up for a quarterback this year. Electric Sports, Raiders should take Membou at 6 and Milroe in the 2nd. The only reason why I don't like the idea of taking Jalen Milroe in the 2nd, to me, if you're going to take a quarterback like Jalen Milroe for the Raiders, you take him on day 3. And it's why I want the Raiders to take a quarterback on day 3 because Milroe is not going to be able to help this team win for 2 to 3 years. And if you're an organization and you want to be able to get players that can help you win right away, I'm going to try to draft players that I think can help me win right away. I do know for a fact the Silver and Black are very interested in Milroe, but I don't know if they're interested in a first-round price tag on Milroe. Like, I don't think that they're interested in Milroe at pick 37, but something that should always, kind of go off in your head when the reports come out that the Raiders are interested in Joe Milton. The number 1 thing that you should be thinking about is, all right, if they're interested in Joe Milton, which, again, reported by Jordan Schultz a month ago, and now you see a quarterback like Jalen Milroe, that makes a lot of sense. Like, that's a super athletic quarterback that's got 2 to 3 years to develop. Jalen Milroe kind of fits in that exact same mold. I also was told this, and I shared it actually on a show. Shout out to Pharaoh NFL, and shout out to Severe. I was on a show with them yesterday, and I don't know what time it's going to be dropping on their channel. It might be later on tonight. But one of the things that I was told, and I said it on their show, was I was told that the Raiders are going to value players that have been a part of a program for multiple years. And it was just a little note that I received, and it's going to be something that I'll keep in the back of my mind where, guys like John Spytek, and Tom Brady talks about it all the time. where he thinks when you develop in a system, in a program, you learn to become a better player, you learn to become a better teammate, you learn to become a better football player in general, instead of having these guys that, are transferring left and right, you are really only learning yourself. You're not really learning how to be a part of a program. And because the Raiders are trying to build a program, they want players that, come from those prestigious schools that, you were able to kind of build yourself throughout that program. And Membou, there's a lot of players that fit that mold. Suave, what's up, my man? We got over 700 people here in the building. I'm going to keep answering super chats. I'm going to keep answering questions. When all the questions are done, then we're going to get to the first segment on today's show. What my Lakers have going for them is we have two proven dogs, LeBron and Luka, and AR-15 is not too far off. We just need to get better D. I mean, Luka wasn't the problem in game one.
Yeah.
Luka, I thought, played great.
Steven Gutierrez thinks it's Ladiddy's fault.
Oh, man. Next, Rebel. Coming back game 2, ask March about game 2. I'll tell you this, that Pistons Knicks series might be the best series.
Death, taxes, Rebel trolling Marsh.
I mean,
three constants that always happen in life.
It's one of my favorite things. It is one of my favorite things.
My favorite thing is coming in on a Tuesday for a Raiders live day after a Knicks loss, knowing the first comment is going to be Rebel talking shit to Marshall.
Oh, dude, do the Raiders and Giants play this year? Because I know the Raiders play the Cowboys. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, they do.
They do. Does anybody know, do the Raiders and Giants play? I think they might. That's going to be a hell of a game if they do. Nocturne Raider says yes, seeing a lot of yeses. I was going to say they play the NFC East, I believe. Rebel, be ready for that one, man. Aggressive, what's up, man? Mitch, would you try the Dave's Hot Chicken Carolina Reaper chicken tender instead of the one chip challenge? I got 5 on it.
I got 5 on it.
Well, I already have to eat the chip. It's actually sitting out there on my desk. It's something that I plan on doing in May. Shout out to Wild 114, Mount Raidermore. He's making me do this challenge again. Dave's Hot Chicken Carolina Reaper chicken tender. I don't know how I can get it or where I could get it.
There's Dave's Hot. It's just like a Nashville hot chicken franchise around here.
Oh, so what's the place that we usually get?
We get Hattie B's.
Okay, and they have a really hot one, and that one's really hot.
It's just their version of their hottest one.
Okay.
Apparently it's pretty spicy.
Oh, I can imagine.
If they're calling it the Carolina Reaper.
I'll tell you this, Aggressive. We're going to do a lot of crazy shows in the off season. Jugs and I are always down for some challenges.
Lava. Chicken.
It could be kind of fun, though, to do
lava chicken
a Raiders Report Hot Ones. Raiders Report Hot Ones. Every bang that we get, we got to go up an extra level of hot.
Mitch got a volcano turning down south after he eats Dave's Hot Chicken.
I mean, at this point in my life, my number one concern after I eat anything spicy is the damage that I'm doing to my South Pole. Let's go to Noah. What up, Noah? Any chance or talk Henderson goes late first? There is some legitimate talk that Trevian Henderson goes in the first round, and it's because of what he provides in the passing game. He is the best pass-blocking running back in this year's draft. I'd also say he's the best pass-catching running back in this year's draft, and because of that, that just instantly boosts his value. Is his running vision poor? I actually would say it is, but then he's also a super dynamic athlete, and putting him in the right system, if you get him on a great offensive line, he's going to be a special player. If you try to put him on an offensive line that's not very good, I think that teams are going to see really quick that really good athlete. I don't want to throw out the name Travis Etienne, but I do see a little bit of Travis Etienne in him where he's a much better pass protector than what Etienne was. But Etienne coming out of college was, again, really, really good athlete. But because he was on a bad football team that had a lot of turnover, he couldn't really quite find a spot. Henderson, though, I actually think is a better prospect overall than him. What up, Wrong Way? Membou and Simmons, first 2 picks, offensive line, done. Are you saying that those are going to be the first 2 offensive linemen taken? Because I still won't go that route. I think the New England Patriots go with Will Campbell. It seems to be a very popular pick around beat reporters for New England. I would say Membou, Will Campbell are still going to be the first 2 offensive linemen. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would say so.
Do you think Simmons is the third? Because I actually don't know if I do.
It just depends on his medicals. Like I said, I could see him going as early as the Dolphins at 12. They need a left tackle.
Yeah.
Teron Armstead just
I think Kelvin Banks, low-key, could be an interesting fit for the Dolphins at 13.
Agreed.
Let's go to Joseph. Happy 17th birthday.
To my little brother, Jack, who is in the profile pic. We are currently celebrating his birthday by watching the Raiders report.
No shit. I'll be real. Is there two people in that picture or one person?
I think it's one person.
I was going to say, because I don't see a second. Hey, this is my little brother, Jack, in my profile pic. I'm
Jack,
like, are you hiding him?
He's my little brother, Jack. You might know him as John Cena. He's standing right next to me in the pic.
Well, how about this? Happy birthday to Jack, 17 years old. I can remember my 17th birthday because I remember how I was like, oh, dude, I can finally watch NC-17 movies now. Or no. Is it NC-17 or is that a Travis Scott song?
No clue.
There's a certain rating on movies where you have to be 17.
Sick.
I can just remember that. Happy birthday, though, Joseph. You're a great big brother.
Go watch some R-rated movies.
Well, he can't. He's 17.
Tell him you're 18. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jack.
Happy birthday
to you.
Happy birthday, Mr. Jack. Carl says yes. It's NC-17. All right, that's what I thought. But I think it's also a song. What up, Ed Robbins? Mitch, congrats on the license. Thank you very much. Trade back with Chicago for pick 10 and a second. So you're saying swap 6 and 10, and then we get Chicago's second-round pick. In all honesty, this is probably what the cost would be overall if the Raiders and Bears were to actually do a trade. It would just depend what the Raiders want. Like, if the Raiders are as interested in Membou and Mason Graham as what's being reported, and I do think Mason Graham is a sneaky candidate to be pick number 6. I'm telling you all that right now, and maybe that's not even all that, a crazy statement to make, and I don't think that it is a crazy statement to make. But if you were the Raiders and you had a bunch of players on your board and you were like, I could go this route, I could go this route, I could go that route, I don't think trading back is a bad idea at all because I do think it's really important to try to get that extra pick in round 2. But if you're Las Vegas and you're like, no matter what, I want Jeanty, Membou, or Mason Graham, which those are 3 names that I keep hearing over and over, I don't know if you're going to be able to trade back because I don't know if those 3 players would be available to you at pick number 10. For those that don't know, Alex and I, we got our marriage license yesterday. So that was a pretty big deal. Yeah.
No going back.
No going back. Dude, I'll tell you this, the lady that was working at the clerk's office.
Super nice, right?
So, yes, she was very nice. But as soon as we got done.
Is she a African-American woman?
Yeah.
I know who it is. Did she offer to take pictures for you?
Yes.
Yes, we had the same lady downtown.
Alex and I looked at each other. We go, I don't know what she's got, but I want some.
She's made for that job.
She was so energetic.
She was more happy for you about you getting your license than y'all were.
She took, I'm not kidding you, 50 pictures.
Yeah, y'all scooched together.
Yes.
Dude, we had the same lady.
Oh, dude.
She was so hype.
Oh, man. She was
hype.
Sweetheart. No, she was sweetheart, but the energy that she brought, I'm telling you this right now, she could host the show.
And she was like, all right, honey, do you know about your name change? Here's the name change form. It's really easy. All you got to do is go like this and this.
Well, because I don't have, which I just found this out, I don't have William on any of my documents. That's my middle name. I usually just do Mitchell W. Renz. So she was like, we can't put your name on your like marriage certificate. And I was like, what do you mean you can't put my name on it? She's like, well, we have to put W. We can't put William. And I was like, I guess that's fine. But she kept saying, this is your king, this is your queen.
Yes.
She kept saying that. I was like,
that.
She was such a sweetheart.
We had the same lady.
Oh, dude, yeah.
She's so hype.
It was hype season, no doubt. Jersey boy Greaser, what's up, man? Number 1, Jeanty. Number 2, Emeka. Number 3, Morrison. is the dream for me. I know the Raiders need offensive line help. Maybe they find a gem later, perhaps Charles Grant. I will say this. Charles Grant could be a player that goes in round 3. He's a William & Mary offensive tackle. 4th round would be where I would like him. It's kind of where I talked about him in my offensive line video that I did. This would be a dream draft, though. Like, I love me some Armand Membou, but if you told me right now it's Ashton Jeanty, Emeka Egbuka fell to round 2, and Benjamin Morrison, there is a chance he falls to round 3 because of the medicals in his hips. There's some scouts that think he could actually fall to round 4 because of his hips and his medicals, but this would be a phenomenal start to me. And if the Raiders go that route, I think it's also that they're a lot more confident in their offensive line, which I'm happy about because I do think that the Raiders' offensive line is better than what people think about. Evil Mitch, I think it's Jeanty. They took him out to dinner, met with him many times. We can't pull a Tyree pick over a Star Carter was on our lap.
Well, that's nothing like this.
I was going to say,
and I see somebody else saying that, I hate that Mitch likes these risers instead of proven guys like Carter. Guys, we got to remember, Jalen Carter got passed on by a lot of teams in the draft and probably would have fell a little bit more because he had a lot of off-the-field issues coming into the draft. He literally had a hit and run that he was still getting investigated for where I believe somebody passed away. There was a lot of teams that were bullish on that, especially the Raiders being one that recently had the problem, the incident with Henry Ruggs. So going from that to picking Jalen Carter top 10, yeah, sorry if I'm a little apprehensive to make that move.
And I also don't think calling Armand Membou a combine riser is fair either, where, people also got to remember, like, when you watch college football tape or when you watch players, you don't really get the opportunity to really, truly sit down and watch these guys until, after the fact. Like, for me, for what I do for my job, it's the regular season, Super Bowl happens, and then, I'll be real, that's 1 week where I kind of give to myself, to Alex, just because of the season, it's crazy. And then we get into free agency talk. Like, I don't really fully start breaking down NFL draft prospects until mid-March, April. Now, obviously for some of those players, but Membou has always been a top 15 overall prospect. Like, he's just now being regarded, I would say, in the top 6, 7, 8 prospects because people are seeing how good his tape actually is and how athletic of a freak he is. But I don't think, like, Armand Membou, Tyree Wilson, it's not nearly the same to me overall. Like, I know that Tyree Wilson is an athletic freak, or he definitely was before the injury. But Membou, Membou to me, it's not fair to call him a riser after the combine. That I don't think is fair at all. He's a proven hell of a player. What up, Roche? I don't think the Raiders will have a chance to get Membou, so I hope for Jeanty. To me, the only team that would take Armand Membou above the Raiders is the New England Patriots at number 4, unless if a team tries to trade up and go get him. What up, Matt Brady? Appreciate you tuning in, man. Love the dog. Mitch Chugs. What up, fellas? Mitch, congrats on the marriage certificate. Thank you. I am team trade back, but if not A or B, A, Jeanty first, Morrison in the second, Jalen Noel in the third, B, Membou first, Milrose second. Scatabo in the third. I mean, if I had to pick between those, I would go A.
But I don't think Noel makes it to round 3.
I don't either. There was a report that came out today, and I talked about it in the video that I did earlier this morning of there is a projected run on wide receivers in round 2. And if I was a team like the Raiders, if you want a wide receiver in this year's draft that you think legitimately can start and be reliable, I'm going to say you probably got to take him in round 3 because I don't know how many good ones are going to be available to you at 68. So what's really going to be interesting to me is what the Raiders decide to do because I know that they are confident, not saying it's going to happen, but I know the Raiders are a confident team that they can get another wide receiver in free agency. Maybe it's a Keenan Allen, maybe it's a Robert Woods, maybe it's a Tyler Lockett. But if the Raiders come out of this draft without a receiver in the top three rounds, I promise you, in the back of their mind, they're going, we're going to be able to get one of those 3 guys.
And I'm not saying
maybe even Renfro.
I'm not saying he falls. But say you take Jeanty at 6, right?
Yep.
And they're like in the late teens, like pick 17, 18, 19.
Sure.
Somehow Teterow and McMillan's still on the board.
I know the Raiders like
to get Jeanty and McMillan out of this draft.
Would I trade up? No, because again, I just think we have way too many holes. Because in my mind, if McMillan's fallen to the 20s, that tells me that I think other receivers are falling too. And if other receivers are falling, I would actually wonder, I'm not kidding you when I say this, if Tetairoa McMillan, Matthew Golden, and Emeka Egbuka were all on the board and the Raiders had their choice, there's a part of me that wonders if they would go with Emeka Egbuka. Because of the Chip Kelly connection, because of the skill set he provides, and because he's a really good fit with somebody like a Geno Smith, and there's no questions around Emeka Egbuka's work ethic. There are questions around Tetairoa McMillan's work ethic. And that's just a cold, hard fact. Let's go to Will. What up, Will? When you look at our running back room, Jeanty obviously elevates our offense more than Membou would. What's got you sold on Membou over Jeanty? Here's the thing. I don't agree with that statement that you're saying that Jeanty elevates our offense more than Membou would. Sure, you might be able to look at it from a stats perspective, but I think Membou is an instant guy that's going to make our offensive line a top 10 unit overall, and maybe if you draft a Membou, you can get a lot of production out of a running back, maybe like a Caleb Johnson, maybe somebody like a Melvin, I almost called him Melvin Gordon, Ollie Gordon, right? Like, you can get other players. Here's the other example that I provided and I keep providing to people. If you draft Ashton Jeanty at 6, how many years do you think you're getting out of Jeanty? In all honesty, how many years? 4, 5, 6? If you get 6 years out of a running back and you plan on working him the way that I think the Raiders would work him, you're going to give him a big contract and you're going to work him very heavily. Like, that's just the truth. Or you draft an offensive tackle that might be able to give you 12 years, right? Like, Kolton Miller was the pick in 2018. It's different situations all the time, but I would love to know how many running backs were taken in 2018 that people still look at as regarded as like, wow, that's still one of the top running backs in the NFL, where you look at Kolton Miller, we can still confidently say that he's still a top 15 offensive tackle in the National Football League, and tackles have been able to prove that they can play in their 30s. They can play to their mid-30s. And with the way that the league is run by quarterbacks and really trying to preserve quarterbacks, offensive lineman, left tackle is an extremely important position. So, and I get it, Membou might end up playing on the right side. He could also play on the left side. To me, though, I look at it not just as one pick versus one pick. Because if you're looking at overall prospects, Jeanty is the better prospect than Armand Membou. But I'm looking at draft. The running back's much deeper than offensive line. I'm also looking at the future, where I would say that Armand Membou is going to have a longer NFL career than Ashton Jeanty, and it's not because I don't like Jeanty, it's just because what the running back position is. And that's, like, to me, that's the tying factor to me. But I also am somebody that believes to build in the trenches. Let's go to Bad Driver. Raiders. Man, I'm ready for Thursday. I've been telling Donkey fans they got to stop comparing our 2025 season to last year. I wish more people would get on board with Geno. I can't wait. I'll tell you this. I can't wait for people to also to see how good Geno Smith is going to be. And I get it. Like, Raiders fans have just gone through so much losing, so much negativity that there's at times that I don't even know if Raiders fans know how to be happy. But once they see what Geno's going to be able to provide and how much better of a quarterback Geno is compared to any quarterback that this team has had for many, many years, and how good of a fit he is with Chip Kelly, how good of a quarterback he is indoors, I think people are going to be very pleasantly surprised with Geno Smith, where we could go back and look and say, out of all the quarterback contracts out there, I think by the end of this year, not rookies, because, again, like, you can't look at a rookie, like C.J. Stroud's contract obviously is a lot better than Geno, but all the quarterbacks that aren't rookies, we're going to look at their contracts and we're going to go, Geno Smith's a top 5 quarterback contract in the NFL. Buckle up, get ready, Bad Driver. What's up, Aggressive? Last 4 NFL stadiums to host WrestleMania, team makes the playoffs. I'll tell you what, that's the best stat that I've seen all day.
Wow.
It's the best stat that I've seen all day. If the Raiders end up making the playoffs, get ready, man.
Thank you, Roman Reigns.
Thank you, Roman Reigns. Patrick Roche, this year is my 50th year anniversary of being a true, loyal, diehard fan, and I am very proud of it. I'm not going to lie, I was thinking like 50-year like wedding anniversary because I was talking about like Alex and I. Some might say this is more impressive.
Yeah.
Some might say it's more impressive. Mark, if we go Membou in the first, Hampton and Henderson are available at 37, would you go Hampton or Henderson? I'm still worried about Brady. with Sanders. All right, so we'll start with the first one. If I got to go Amari Hampton or Trevian Henderson, I'm going to go Amari Hampton. Like, I think Hampton is the better running back prospect than Trevian Henderson. I would be shocked if Omari and Hampton, though, was on the board at 37. I would say if he gets past 24, that would surprise me a lot because I think he's going to end up going to the Denver Broncos at 20. I'm not really worried about Brady with Sanders. If I'm being 100% honest with you, like, I know that Tom Brady is going to be in the war room with the Raiders. But, like, the Sanders to Raiders talk, I mean, this hasn't been going on for weeks, months at this point. And I'll keep going back to, yes, I know Tom Brady and Shedeur Sanders has a relationship. But if the Raiders do end up passing on Shedeur, and a report that Schefter put out literally yesterday was the teams that he thought could take Shedeur Sanders. The Raiders weren't mentioned. Like, they were not mentioned. It was the Browns, the Giants, and that was more of like round 2 trading back into round 1 talk. The Pittsburgh Steelers at 21, which Aaron Wilson told us that went terrible. And then the New Orleans Saints at 9. And then Schefter also adds that, he's been hearing that the Saints like Jackson Dart more than they like Shedeur. If I'm an NFL team and I value Tom Brady's opinion, which I think all 32 NFL teams value what Tom Brady has to say, there's got to be a little part of you that goes, so you're telling me Tom Brady's been Shedeur Sanders' mentor for as long as what he's been. And the Raiders chose to go out and trade for Geno Smith when they could get Shedeur Sanders at 6. So if Tom Brady's willing to move on from Shedeur, somebody that probably knows Sanders better than a lot of other NFL teams out there, if Brady's willing to move on from him, I think that speaks volumes in NFL circles. I really do. And it's not a knock on Sanders. And I'll tell you this, if the Raiders take Shedeur Sanders at 6, I'm not going to be upset about it. And I almost laugh. I literally was trolling somebody on social media over the weekend because they're like, I can't wait to laugh in your face when the Raiders draft Shedeur. I can't wait to laugh in your face if the Raiders draft Shedeur because that means eyeballs, it means dollars and cents, and I mean, you're crazy to think that stuff doesn't matter to us. You know what I mean? Like, do I think it helps the Raiders win games? No. Do I think the Raiders are going to draft Shedeur? No, I do not. Maybe at pick 37 is more likely. Pick number 6, 0% chance the Raiders draft Sanders at 6 unless Mark Davis or Tom Brady make them do it. But you don't hire Pete Carroll, John Spytek to do that. You keep Antonio Pierce and Tom Telesco if you're going to make them do exactly what you want. And that you're just not going to do that with Pete Carroll. What up, Ruthless? Membou, Golden, Morrison, Scadaboo. A guy can dream, and sometimes dreams come true. Matthew Golden ain't falling to pick 37. Benjamin Morrison, there's a chance. Cam Scadaboo, I don't know. I don't know where he could fall. Because one of my best buddies, Tom Downey, who I think is one of the smartest guys in the draft industry, I told him, I don't know if I love Cam Scadaboo. And I was like, sell it to me, man. Sell it to me. What do you think, about him? And he was like, do you like Kyron Williams? I said, I love Kyron Williams. He's like, I think Kyron Williams and Scadaboo have that similar game style where they're not the best athlete, but they're just really good football players. And when you put them on the field, good shit happens. And it kind of reminds me of the Dalvin Cook NFL Combine where Cook ran like a 4.6. And everyone was like, this guy's slow, balls out of the first round. Some dudes are just not great testing athletically. Some guys are just a lot better on a football field. And that's what Cam Scadaboo is to me now. I look at Cam Scadaboo, and if you put him in the right system, he could be somebody that's really effective. But I also think if you put him in the wrong system, it's going to be a disaster. All right, how many more? I think we got, what, 2 more?
2 more.
2 more, and then we'll get into the first segment here on today's show. Shout out to Sammy77, Jonathan Smith, Robert Jansen, Azulix, what up, Juicerio, Kurt52, James Jimenez, all for pulling up today. I appreciate it.
I do think it is fair to say a lot of Scadaboo fans in here.
A lot of Scadaboo. I mean, it's kind of hard not to be. He is the running back that everybody doubts. Yeah. He brings his A game when it matters the most. You can't deny that.
And Kane super chatted this. One option I don't mind, Membou in the first. This is the part I want to ask you about because I think Scadaboo in the third, Membou in the first.
Kyle Williams.
A lot of questions about that. Kyle Williams at 37. Would you be happy with that?
I'd be okay with it. I will admit, I do think that the draft type around him has skyrocketed because of Chris Sims and what he said about him. But, I will be real. When you actually turn on the tape of Kyle Williams, it's amazing how fluid he is, and he is a great deep ball catcher. And the Raiders need somebody that can win downfield. We all hope Trey Tucker can do it. But on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you have zero confidence, 10, you know for a fact Trey Tucker's going to be that guy this season, you're probably somewhere in that 4 to 5 range. Like, I could create a show of saying why Trey Tucker's going to go for 900 yards, 1,000 yards this year because he has the athletic gifts to do it. But then there's also that part of me where I'm like, you know, he's got concentration issues. He's got drop issues. I don't know if he's the best route runner. And you saw Trey get a little bit better at the end of last season, which gives me hope. But at the exact same time, I am not going to sit up here and say, I believe Trey Tucker can no doubt be the Raiders wide receiver too. There's just no way you can look at me and tell me that. So I think Kyle Williams would be a better receiver than Trey Tucker. 37's a little bit rich for my blood, I'm not going to lie. But if you told me the Raiders reach on a receiver at 37, Jalen Noel. Jalen Noel would be my pick there.
I could see that. He's been getting a lot of hype, even maybe a Jaden Higgins.
Jaden Higgins I like. But the Raiders have met with Noel more than they have Higgins, and maybe it doesn't matter. Frozen Raider preference question, Jeanty in the first and the best available guard in the second, or Membou in the first and best available running back in the second. You know, it's funny. This question is something that we talked about probably 10 times last week because we did a Chat Sports live mock draft, and I told everybody, all right, I'm going to let you guys pick the first pick. We ended up going with Ashton Jeanty. So then I said, we got to go with Tyler Booker at pick 37. And in my mind, that was the best available guard available. But if it was Ashton Jeanty, Tyler Booker, or Armand Membou, Trevian Henderson, if it was up to me, I think Armand Membou and Trevian Henderson is a better pick duo than Tyler Booker and Ashton Jeanty. What? I saw you got your wild face on.
Yeah, just somebody sent a message in our group Slack, and they're like, hey, I found this in the ceiling in H, and it was a Miller Lite can, an empty Miller Lite can in the ceiling. That makes me think one of the workers pounded one and put it up there.
Potentially.
Because it would make no sense for anybody who works here to drink a beer and put it in the ceiling.
I don't disagree with that at all. Though, I can remember in college, that's where we used to hide stuff.
But it's like, why?
I agree. I don't know why anybody here would hide anything.
Yeah, like.
I don't know if you guys know this.
And it's like
we drink beer from time to time.
We have beer fully stocked in the fridge for any time anybody wants to drink it. I don't think anybody's throwing that in the.
Miller Lite in the ceiling, I would say there is a 1% chance better that the Dr. Pepper was from somebody that worked here. If they're putting Miller Lights in the ceiling, who says they're not putting Dr. Pepper in the freezer? I'm just saying. Rebel, what's up, man? If we get a random at 6, Randy Orton, please RKO me. Like, who would be the random player, though? Like, realistic random, I would say it'd be Jahdae Barron, Jalen Walker. I mean, do you consider Will Johnson to be a random at number 6?
Oh, also.
Like, I don't think it's going to be a player that we haven't talked about.
Because Rebel said that. You know who showed up at WrestleMania?
Who?
The guy who does the say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry.
Really?
I believe. Yeah. He was a surprise guest.
Okay.
He fought Randy Orton and lost, but everybody was freaking out.
I got you.
I believe in Chip Kelly.
Bah, bah. All right, man, we got 800 people here in the building. You guys ready to talk a little bit of Raiders news, some draft rumors? Then we're going to get into my final Raiders mock draft, and then Raiders round 1 draft targets, all coming up here on today's show. And again, this is going to be the final live show that we do before the 2025 NFL draft. It's kind of crazy that we've made it this far, but damn it, I can't wait because I'm kind of sick and tired of talking about the NFL draft. And if you agree with that statement, spam me down below. If you plan on pulling up for our NFL draft coverage, also spam me down below. You ready? You ready? Let's go. Let's get this thing popping. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And coming up on today's show, we got some major NFL draft news. And We're talking trades early on here. Some teams apparently listening to calls at 2 and 3. Then we're going to talk about some Raiders rumors that I would say you got to see. I'm going to talk about Ashton Jeanty. I talked to Kolton Miller over the weekend. We'll talk about what him and I discussed. And then at the very end, there was a player that I have not heard linked to the Raiders in the round one. I'm going to tell you who that player is, and I think it's going to shock some people out there. Let's first, though, get into the draft news on today's program. Pete Schrager put out there that the Browns and the New York Giants have been fielding trade calls at 2 and at number 3. Calls been happening apparently the past 48 hours, and I do wonder if this is a smokescreen. And I only say that because at this point, there is a lot of smoke going around that, I'll be real, I don't know if it's going to lead us to any fire. But if I was a team like the Cleveland Browns and if I was a team like the New York Giants and I believe that I need to be able to restock and build for the long haul, I would also be willing to take calls for 2 or 3. But the reason why I wonder if it's a smokescreen is because I can't sit up here and think which teams would want to trade up to 2, which teams would want to trade up to 3. I can't quite think of who they would be. Now, in terms of which players apparently are being talked about, Schrager said this, that teams were apparently calling the Giants and the Browns at 2 or 3 in regards to Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, and also Ashton Jeanty. Now, obviously, Jeanty is a name that we talk about all the time. I don't see Hunter falling in the draft. I don't see Abdul Carter falling in the draft. But if one of those 2 players do end up falling to number 4, if I'm the Raiders, then you do have to consider picking up the phone and giving the New England Patriots a call and saying, hey, can I potentially get a Travis Hunter? Hey, can I potentially get an Abdul Carter? Because as much as I would love Jeanty, as much as I would love Armand Membou, if one of these 2 players on the board at number 6, that would honestly be my pick for the silver and black. I'd be real, though. I do not think that the Raiders are one of the teams trading up to number 2 or number 3. And the reason why I'm even throwing that out there is because when this report went out that teams are calling it 2 and 3 and Jeanty's name was featured in that, I had a lot of people ask me, Mitch, do you think that the Raiders are one of those teams? I do not. I do not see the Raiders trading up in this year's draft, not in round 1, not from 6 to go up. Maybe they try to trade back into the end of round 1. We'll talk about that at the end of today's show. But no, I don't think that the Raiders are one of those teams. If you're looking for free Raiders videos every single day, hit that sub button. We are 101 subs away from 191,000, and I want to hit that number by the start of the 2025 NFL Draft. If you don't know, we will be live for the entire draft. 21 hours last season, over 300,000 people joined in, and I want to get the party rolling yet again. So if you want to see the picks before you see them on TV, make sure you're subbed. Let's go to some Raiders rumors now coming up on today's programming. The Raiders will end up drafting Ashton Jeanty, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I would say over the past week, it almost sounds like maybe the Raiders are a little bit more off the Jeanty train compared to what we originally thought leading up to this week. I'm just going to say this, that there is a 50% chance, call it in the air, heads or tails, that the silver and black end up going with the Boise State running back. People are talking about the Raiders drafting Jeanty, and if I was a betting man, I would say the number 1 player most likely that the Raiders end up drafting is, in fact, Ashton Jeanty. Now, I do know that Adam Schefter has been reporting that other names have been linked to the Raiders, like an Armand Membou, like a Jalen Walker has been reported, and anytime I see reports out there, you got to start connecting the dots a little bit. Because Schefter has been so on the offensive lineman train for the Raiders, it makes me wonder, are the Raiders going to go on offensive lineman? But I also know that Schefter obviously talks to his ESPN colleagues all the time, and Mel Kiper, Jordan Reed, 2 people that work for ESPN, and their most recent mock drafts, both of them had the Raiders end up going with Ashton Jeanty. I also know that the Raiders love me some Jeanty, where they met with him after his pro day. The Raiders John Spytek, Raiders running back coach, met with Jeanty, and there is a lot of love around him. Though the question always wondered, does Jeanty want to be a Raider? Well, here's what Jeanty had to say of where he thought he could be drafted. I think the earliest that I will go is number 6. That's my belief. And that would be the Raiders at that pick or somebody else trading up to get in front of them possibly. I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, that's somebody that's literally telling you, and we don't really too often, I think, get a player put out his 2 cents of what they think and what they believe are hearing. And I can understand Jeanty probably knows the higher I go in the draft, the more money I'm going to be able to make. But he also has probably got to sit back and go, I want to go to the best destination possible. And maybe Jeanty believes it's the Raiders. Maybe he doesn't. Here's what Jeremy Fowler, also from ESPN, also very well connected to Schefter, had to say on the Raiders drafting Jeanty. I'm hearing that Jeanty is in play for the Raiders among a few options. They're also looking at offensive tackle potentially, but there's some momentum around the Raiders and Jeanty. I'm told that Jeanty would love to play for the Raiders. They are atop his wish list as far as what the player wants. We'll see what the team wants. And I know that the Raiders can go in a multitude of different ways. I think if John Spytek has his say, he's probably going to look at somebody like an Armand Membou. I also know that John Spytek does really love Ashton Jeanty. He literally said last week's press conference, I don't know how we got to a world where running backs aren't valued. It's literally to my core. I'm a Michigan guy, and I know that they believe with a good running game. Also, Pete Carroll's son, Brennan Carroll, is in charge of the running game here for the Las Vegas Raiders. So Jeanty, to me, I've been seeing a lot of people going, I don't think the Raiders are going to go Jeanty anymore, Mitch. I will still say that Jeanty is the number one most likely pick for the Raiders, but that doesn't mean that he is an absolute lock to be the pick by any means. So here's your opportunity to voice your opinion. And not even going to be the pinned comment. You are about to get hit with a YouTube ad break. So while that ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down. But if you want the Raiders to draft Jeanty, I want you to spam Jeanty down below, because if you don't think Mark Davis watches this show, if you don't think that people around the Raiders organization watch this show, then you're a lot more naive than I originally thought. I want the Raiders to draft Jeanty. I want the Raiders to draft Membou. I would be more than happy with Jeanty. If you're on that boat, spam Jeanty down below. Now, I will say this. I would say the top options for the Raiders right now, based on some of the conversations that I had over the weekend, Armand Membou, Ashton Jeanty, Mason Graham. To me, these are the top three most likely options for the Raiders at number 6. No Shador, no Jalen Walker. The top options for the Raiders come draft night, Mason Graham, Ashton Jeanty, Armand Membou. Watch out for Mason Graham, because Schefter has been putting out a lot of smoke about no chance he's going to the Jags at 5. And I know the Raiders pick after the Jags, but a lot of people thought Graham was going to go there, and I wonder if he's hearing some other information, because there's been a lot of smoke, and I know the Raiders love them some Mason Graham. Coming up next here on the show, we're going to get into the latest around Kolton Miller. Had the opportunity. It's a brief conversation over the weekend with Kolton, and I'm not going to try to go, too in-depth on it. I'm allowed to share some information. I'm not allowed to share all the information. I'm just going to be very bold, obvious with you. But I will say this. You're going to want to see what I have to say about Kolton Miller. Before we get into that, though, today's show is sponsored by Game Time. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guarantee. Views from your seats. I never realized how important views from your seats was until this past weekend. Shout out to my fiance's sister. She ended up buying us tickets, did not know where we were sitting. She said that we got third base tickets because she saw the number 300 in section 300. You see that picture over on the left side where it gives you the bowl look so you know exactly where you're going to be sitting? That's one of the reasons why I love Game Time. Also, you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater. Game Time Picks makes last-minute ticket buying easier than ever by quickly highlighting the best deals in the stadium. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code ChatSports. That's ChatSports for $20 off. Download Game Time today, and if you're sitting there wondering what time is it, it's game time. Now, I know that the Raiders don't have their games out yet, but as you can see, and different times, different strokes, different folks, Raiders preseason schedule, I actually like that they already kind of have them on Game Time. That's kind of interesting to me. I was also told today that, the last 4 places that held WrestleMania ended up going to the playoffs. I don't know if anybody ended up going to WrestleMania. I did have one Raiders fan DM me and said, thank you so much for the discount on Game Time. WrestleMania was sick. And, I wish that I would have been able to go, but this is also the time of the year where you got NBA playoffs. You got MLB playoffs. And if you want to be able to create those lasting memories and save a little bit of money, Game Time is going to be the spot for you. So if you want to save some money, the links available to you are going to be down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. Huge, huge shout out to Game Time, the official ticketing partner of the Raiders Report. Let's keep it moving here on the show, and we're going to get into some of the stuff that Kolton Miller and I talked about over the weekend. And again, I'm not going to share everything because Kolton is one of the Raiders players that I've been able to build a good relationship with over the years. He supported our wing eating competition and helped us raise some money, which was a really awesome thing. But I'll say this, Does Kolton Miller want to be a Raider? Yes, he does. This one's for just win, babies. Believe it, baby. And I don't want anybody for a moment to think that Miller, because he's not showing up to voluntary workouts, doesn't want to be a part of this organization. He does want to be a part of this organization. And because I spoke with Miller over the weekend, he told me a few things. The number one thing that he wants to get out there is that he appreciates the support from Raider Nation, and he appreciates that there's, people that have his back and that continuously have his back. So I'm telling you this right now, Kolton Miller sees the support that the nation is out there giving him, and if you want the Raiders to get in a contract extension out with Miller, like I do, and I think a lot of us do, keep putting that positive energy out into the world, right? We always say, put those good vibes out there. Based on the conversation that I had with Miller, though, I did not get the feeling that the contract situation was going to be an issue for him. And I don't really know if it's going to be an issue for the Raiders either, where this just seems like something that the Raiders prioritized other things in front of Kolton Miller. They prioritized the Max Crosby contract. They prioritized free agency. They prioritized the Geno Smith trade. They prioritized the Geno Smith contract. And then they prioritized their top 30 visits, and they prioritized the NFL draft, which, based on the timeline, all of that stuff makes sense to me. I expect that if the Kolton Miller extension does end up happening, I expect that it happens after the NFL draft. I also expect Kolton Miller and Jakobi Meyers deals to get done before OTAs, which is May 19th. I will say this, and this is where the panic button needs to be pushed. If the Jakobi Meyers and Kolton Miller deal are not done by mandatory minicamp, which starts June 10th, then we could see a real issue, because I think that would speak volumes to Kolton. And it would also, I think, make Kolton, a little bit uneasy about what he thinks that this organization thinks of him. And that's where I would say it could be a difficult situation. With all of that being said, though, and I bring this up because last week we talked about Kolton Miller and we talked about the, idea, if you will, of the Raiders extending him and not extending him. Last week, I was 100% confident that the Raiders were going to get a deal done with Kolton Miller. I am not 100% confident anymore, and I only say that because of what the Raiders' actions have been this offseason. Let's look at the offensive linemen that the Raiders have met with this offseason. Will Campbell, left tackle. Kelvin Banks, left tackle. Josh Connerly, left tackle. Charles Grant, left tackle. Jackson Slater, left guard. Caleb Etienne, offensive tackle, basically like a 7th-round prospect. Think of him as like a Dalton Wagner type of guy. Caleb Rogers, very versatile offensive lineman, has played left tackle, left guard, basically everywhere on the line besides center. My point is this, though. If you're the Raiders and you're so confident that you're going to get a deal done with Kolton Miller, again, brand new regime, zero money guaranteed, and I don't think it's going to be a back-breaking type of number. I'm going to say $18, $19, $20 million a year for an extension on Miller. I'd give him a 2-year extension, tie him in with Max, tie him in with Pete Carroll. But if there was a chance that the Raiders weren't willing to give Miller an extension, if this is just me, if I'm Pete Carroll and John Spytek and I'm going, I don't want to give Kolton Miller a contract extension, the number one thing that I would do is I would look for left tackles and left guards. And I would look at left tackles and left guards as early as round 1 and as, middle rounds and in the later rounds. And that is something that the Raiders have done. So coming up here next is going to be a new player to the Raiders in round 1 that there's been some talks around. And because there is legitimate talks right now around the Raiders and this next guy I'm going to bring up, that does make me wonder what they think about Kolton. Because, again, the information in the last 24 hours, much different than when I had my conversation with Kolton Miller about 48 hours ago. And the name that we're going to bring up here is Kelvin Banks. Could the Las Vegas Raiders draft offensive tackle Kelvin Banks from Texas? I am going to give this one just win, baby, and I'm going to say that there is a small shred of truth behind the Raiders going out and getting him. I would just say that this is another instance where offensive linemen are being brought up. The Raiders are clearly doing their homework on offensive linemen. But according to Albert Breer, Breer does say that he thinks that the Raiders could end up taking Banks at number 6 in the 2025 NFL Draft. Now, Kelvin did just have a top 30 visit with the Raiders, which the timing on this is very interesting because if I'm doing my counting right for top 30 visits, the Raiders have 31 of them. So that means one of the players that was initially listed as a top 30 visit might have just been a local visit, might have just been a personal visit. I don't know what it is. But if the Raiders trade back into round 1, like if Banks ends up sliding down, if there's a run on offensive tackles, like Josh Connerly, right, the kid from Oregon, If he ends up going at 9, which has been reported, like he could go in the top 10, and there is a little bit of a slide on some offensive tackles, and somebody along the lines of Banks is available, and the late 20s, early 30s, based on what we're hearing, then I think that the Raiders actually could be interested. If Banks somehow is available at 37, I'd almost make a guarantee that he could be the pick. Now, again, I don't think that he's going to be there, but this is what Albert Breer had to say. Banks is more of a prototype left tackle than Campbell, and is more polished and pro-ready than Membou. Even if his tape's not as good as Campbell's and his athletic ceiling isn't as high as Membou's, I think he could go as high as number 6 to the Raiders. I will go against what Breer says here because I don't think that he's more pro-ready than Armand Membou. And I don't think that he's more pro-ready, even than a Will Campbell. I will admit, I'm going to be somebody that watches tape, and I know that Will Campbell's got good tape. And I know that Kelvin Banks is a good player. However, though, I also know that some people look at Kelvin Banks as being an offensive guard. And for the Raiders, there is a spot that I could see them going with an extra left guard. And I know Banks has played predominantly left tackle, but my guy Tom Downey has him ranked as the number 1 guard prospect. And Tom, to me, is one of the most underappreciated draft analysts in the entire world. This guy does more homework than anybody, and I know that he's a 3-year starter who's rarely been beaten in pass protection. Good athlete, strong footwork, not always a great mauler, which shows up sometimes with sustaining blocks in the run game. Those are Tom Downey's notes. But then at the exact same time, if you're the Raiders and you're wondering if a player is going to be a guard, it's not somebody that I'm going to draft the number 6, but it could be a reason why he ends up sliding down the board just a little bit. So in conclusion of today's show, not sure I buy that teams are calling up to 2 and 3. I think it's just a smokescreen to try to convince maybe teams that that's ultimately happening, or you see the NFL do this where they try to boost their own numbers for the NFL draft. And I think because a lot of people up here go, number 1 pick's Cam Ward, number 2 pick's going to be Travis Hunter, number 3 pick's going to be Abdul Carter. The NFL doesn't want that. The NFL wants you to be like, what could happen at 2 and 3? Jeanty, to me, is still the most likely option at 6, despite all of the rumors around offensive linemen. I know that this organization does really like Ashton Jeanty. And I think that a Miller extension happens, but I am more skeptical today than I was last week that a Kolton Miller extension ends up getting done. But I know for a fact that he wants to be a Raider, and I know for a fact that he appreciates the nation having his back. All right, man, predict who's going to get to the NBA Finals, Chugs.
And why is it the Rockets?
If the Rockets win the series, 7 games, you have to admit, Rockets in 5, you might just throw that one away. Throw it away.
I don't know. We got another Warriors fan in the office.
Throw it away.
He's unraveling a cord right now.
James is a big Warriors guy.
James is a big Warriors guy, but he also agreed with me that the Rockets are way better.
I don't think that that's the truth.
No, yeah, James told me himself. He said, yeah, Rockets way better than the Warriors.
Nope, I will not. There's 0% chance. 0% chance. I have to go pee real quick. Let me go pee real quick, and you guys are going to hang out with Chugs for like 2 minutes. I'm also going to fill up my water. When I get back, I'm going to answer some questions. Make sure it's hashtag Raiders or Super Chat to get those questions, comments on the screen. And then after that, we'll get into the second segment, my final Raiders mock draft. Seeing a lot of NBA chatter. Predict who's going to get to the NBA Finals. Give me 2 minutes.
Here we go. I see a ton of Celtics. I see some Warriors. I see some Lakers, some Fakers, some Celtics, Warriors in 4. No chance. No chance. Rockets are coming back. The Rockets are coming back for vengeance. Game 2, Toyota Center. They're about to show the Warriors what's up. They're about to show the Warriors what's up. Mark my words. Mark them. Mark my words. As we do have some Super Chats to roll through. I saw my man Navman in the chat saying what's up. Give me 1 second. Let me pull this back up. Dun, dun, dun. Which, Navman, I heard you might have a new respect for what I do behind the scenes. Because Mitch was telling me a little bit about your live shows, saying, you know, you were back there doing everything. You were the producer. You were the man in charge. Maybe you know what I do a little bit more behind the scenes now, Navman. Now that you kind of are doing it as well. Rebel said, if we get a random at 6, Randy Orton, please RKO me. Dude, Randy Orton and John Cena is about to feed families this year. That rivalry coming back to the very end is going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. Philip, 7 more years equals 70 years of Raiders fan. Wow. That's freaking awesome, man. That's freaking awesome. Congrats. Sean Sebastian, that is a wild comment, and I don't know how it got through YouTube. That's something. I'm pumped for the draft. Let's effing go. Let's effing go, Noah Santana. Let's freaking go. If you're excited for the draft, go and like the video. There's 736 people watching. Only 300 likes right now. So half of y'all are not pumped for the draft. That is ludicrous. That's insane. That's craziness for me to hear in my ear sockets and my eardrums. You should be pumped. Raiders, where's my invite to the wedding? I don't know, man. Raiders Shield family, a.k.a. 93 Nav. Not a WWE fan, but watching McAfee get choked out, I can't watch that shit enough. Suspect if we pick at 6, it will be Jeanty if there. Not that I think it's best. Follows the rhyme scheme. Yeah. What's actually crazier, Nav, man, you want to see something insane? Look at Paul Heyman's interview on the McAfee show. Wow. I mean, I was surprised that ESPN let it run that far and the producers let Heyman say half the stuff that he said. It was absolutely not ESPN Disney friendly, what Paul Heyman was saying on. Did you watch that at all?
No, but I did see people like talking about it on social media, and that was what, he's a pretty big guy, like a little fat guy, like
yeah, he's like not a wrestler. He's like one of like the people who like talk for the wrestlers.
Yeah, I can remember one of the very first tweets I saw yesterday was like, I can't believe that this guy didn't get ESPN shut down, or he's trying to get Pat McAfee shut. I don't know what he said.
Bro, on ESPN during the Pat McAfee show, somebody yelled, "You suck," and he said, "Yeah, I learned it from your mother."
I mean, that to me, that's kind of like what wrestling is to me. Like, it's an entertainment business. But I agree with you. ESPN, I'm shocked.
And then he went on to be like, "Oh yeah, Pat was telling me before this while we were smoking a doobie how much he hates the execs at ESPN and how much they need to pay him more than Stephen A."
He said that
on his show. Yeah.
There's a part of me, though, where I think McAfee is a really smart guy. I wonder if McAfee told him to say that.
And he just acted surprised and was like, "Why'd you say that?"
Yeah, and again, like, McAfee, you could say what you want. The man's a genius. He's been able to create his own brand, and he's, doing it. I'll tell you this right now. Like growing up, I used to be like, I want to be on ESPN.
Yeah.
I have no interest. Not that I have no interest, but
Azul, he did tell that guy that
McAfee would be the way I'd want to go.
He did tell that guy who he told that his mother sucks. He did tell that guy that he was getting deported too.
Holy shit, dude.
He went on an insane rant. Insane.
Yeah, that's
But I'm glad you're
wild.
back, because I was telling Navman he probably has a little bit better appreciation for what I do behind the scenes. Being that he was kind of running the ship for his live show the other day.
Yeah, Nav, I tuned in very briefly. Was what? You did? I think you did 2 shows this weekend. It's one of those things where, like being able to talk for a long period of time, I don't think people realize at times how difficult it is. Does your voice hurt? Because I always get made fun of, Mitch, your voice sounds so weird. It sounds weird because you got to learn how to talk with your body or else throat's going to be gone. Nathan Wolf, what's up, my man?
How are you?
Throw one up there, dude. Throw one up, Mr. Wolf. What do you got for me? He says, before the draft in Houston faces, let's go Thursday. Can't wait to get tipsy and be happy. No DHB.
Are you already tipsy?
I was going to say, what is DHB?
What is before the draft in Houston faces?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Somebody needs to check on Nathan Wolf. This looks like a talk to text if I've ever seen one. This is Nathan probably driving his car and going, this is what I want to say. Not looking at it, click send. I have no idea.
Robert, let people have fun.
What?
Robert Jansen's just being the old get off my lawn man out there, telling people they're not allowed to watch wrestling.
Oh, DHB is Darius Hayward Bay.
Oh, wow.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't want another Darius Hayward Bay. If you told me which player that I think that the Raiders could draft based on athletic ability, because, I mean, Hayward Bay wasn't a crazy, crazy good athlete, which, again, you can't deny. Who would that be in this year's draft? Who's the crazy athlete that obviously just ends up being a terrible pick?
I don't think it would be as bad, but if a team takes Tootin in round 1 or 2.
I mean, that would be.
That's what happened with Darius Hayward Bay.
I don't think Tootin's gonna go though in round 1 or 2.
I mean,
I'm trying to think of
Matthew Golden going in the top. If the Raiders took Matthew Golden at 6, that would be very similar. Ran a 4.29 at the 40-yard dash.
What about like Maxwell Harrison? Blazing runner, really good athlete, but you have to admit he is an atrocious tackler.
I wouldn't pick him.
I literally think if he's in the right system, he can be good.
Yeah.
But then I don't think people realize the risk involved with taking somebody that can't tackle. And he can't. It's tackle football. The guy literally can't tackle. At least he's not very good at it. I'll tell you that right now. But when you're running the 4.28, teams are going to bet on that athleticism. All right, y'all, let's get into the next segment coming up here on today's show, and it's going to be my final Raiders mock draft. Now, the way that I do this, I try to do this the same way every single year where it's going to be a combination of players that I would want the Raiders to take, a combination of some players that, I think Pete Carroll, John Spytek could end up taking, and I just try to do it the best way I possibly can. I ended up running this mock draft on PFN, so it's a little bit different. I decided to go a little bit different than PFF, just to keep that in mind, because when I did the PFF mock, it was the first the first pick in the PFF mock was Cam Ward, and then number 2 was Ashton Jeanty, and then number 3 was Armand Membou, and I was like, all right, if this is what I'm getting, I'm not doing this.
Also, Nathan Wolf was saying he was throwing an alley-oop in the Rockets' face.
Oh, it's brutal.
A little deciphering the super chat.
Well, Nathan, I don't know if you're already tipsy.
And just a reminder, Prize Picks for this one.
Okay.
Shout out Prize Picks. I have a great Prize Picks lineup in there for y'all that y'all need to check out later on in the program.
Is it a Rockets one?
It is.
Oh, boy. Get ready. Whatever Chug says, we're just going to do the exact opposite.
We have that, but do remember only basketball, football, and MMA. We're not saying the official names just because we haven't done it in a while.
I got you.
And I do see this should be 2.
2?
2,000.
Ooh, wow. That's pretty good. That's really good. All right. I'm glad I needed that. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, just double checking from Jack's message. Yeah, you can now win up to 2,000 times.
I will say this. I actually don't think I have any of the links at the top of the doc to put. I know. That's on me.
It's okay because I actually already have it.
So. Oh, my God. This guy. Let's go. That's why we call him Chugs. Did I watch the Lakers game? I did watch the Lakers game. So here's my question to you before we get into this next segment here, okay? Who do you want? Let's not do that. Who do you think I took at number 6? We're going to get into this mock draft, okay? Who do you think I ended up taking at pick number 6? And I'll tell you this. One of the players of Mason Graham, Ashton Jeanty, Armand Membou, not on the board in this next mock draft. Who do you think I ended up going with? Brian, what up, man? He's going to go with Graham. Raider Rob says Armand. Robert Jansen, Steven Hansen, going to go Membou as well. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Maybe I do, maybe I don't.
All right.
Daryl Rogers, Jeanty, John Cena from Rebel, Montana. There you go. Carson from UCLA at number 6. if I took Carson Swessinger at number 6, in all honesty, you should unsubscribe to the show. Yeah, just unsubscribe from it. It's not a good show. I'll tell you that. Jalen Walker from Emmanuel Sanchez. Interesting. Jalen, chugs at 6 from Big Luck. Could be a good pick. Ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Coming up, let's talk about my Raiders final mock draft. Kind of sad, but also kind of happy about it. Coming up today here on the Raiders Report, my final Raiders mock draft for 2025. I would say over the course of the last 3 to 4 months, I've probably done 10, maybe 12 mock drafts in total. If you want to go check out any of them, just look up Raiders mock draft on YouTube, and I guarantee I'm going to pop up. The way that I ended up doing this mock, though, is a blend of the way I could see John Spytek, a blend of what I could see Pete Carroll, and a blend of if I was in the war room with those two gentlemen there, what this Raiders draft could ultimately end up looking like. Now, typically I've done mocks on PFF. This one I've actually done, I did on PFN, so just keep that in mind. I also did not do any trades, so just please also keep that in mind. I always like to do my final mock draft as just being just the picks that the Raiders have, because trades and mocks, especially simulations, seem to happen a lot more often than what they actually happen in real life. For those that do not know, the Raiders have 9 picks in total. You got to pick in round 1 all the way through 7 in every single one. 3 picks, though, in round 6. And ultimately, I am somebody that really values the first 4 rounds of this year's draft just because of what the talent level is. And I really wanted to trade back in a few instances, but I didn't have any great values overall. For those of you that do not know, we will be live for the NFL draft. Last year, we were live for almost 21 hours in total. So my only thing is this. If you're a Raiders fan, you bleed silver and black. If you want to participate and you want to hang out with Jeremy Chuggs and I during the draft, make sure you subscribe. Make sure your notifications are turned on. If you want to see the picks before you see them on TV, we're going to be the channel for you. If you don't want to see that, you're probably not going to be very happy with us. Let's go to the first 5 picks here of this mock. It was Cam Ward. He went off the board at number 1 to the Tennessee Titans. Travis Hunter goes off the board at number 2 to the Cleveland Browns. Abdul Carter, number 3 to the New York Giants. Then it was Will Campbell, offensive tackle for LSU. And at number 5, Mason Graham, defensive tackle from Michigan. So now I got an opportunity. I can go Ashton Jeanty. I can go Armand Membou. I can go Will Johnson. Or you can just go and pick any other player that you would want. So let me know down below who you would want the Raiders to draft. If you want to go with Armand Membou, type AM. If you want to go Ashton Jeanty, give me an AJ. Will Johnson, type WJ. Or if there is another player in the 2025 NFL draft, type other down below. And you know what? This is the number one question that I want you guys to go ahead and answer to. And, you know, we had a lot of people that are spamming Ashton Jeanty right now, and I totally get the love around Jeanty. I also know that there's a lot of love around Armand Membou right now. But in my mind, the way that I did this mock was I sat here and I said, what would I honestly do if I was in that room with John Spytek and Pete Carroll? And I'm going to go with Armand Membou, offensive tackle from Missouri. I believe that he is the number 1 offensive tackle in this year's draft. I also believe that he is a player that you could see turn into somebody along the lines of the next Tristan Wirfs, who John Spytek drafted down in Tampa Bay. This is a player that I know a lot of people might think is not better than Ashton Jeanty, but there are some people that have Armand Membou actually ranked higher than Jeanty on their big board. Tom Downey said that he moves well for his size, got good burst to get into position, good balance really well, helps in pass protection. Could struggle with powerful edge rushers is what Tom says, getting into his frame. But I look at him and I go, we can turn this offensive line into a top 10 unit ASAP Rocky. I also think because of how deep the running back class is, I'm going to be able to get a running back later and still feel good about my draft. Yes, this probably means DJ Glaze is going to get kicked in. Maybe they put Dylan Parham over there at left guard. But Kolton Miller, Dylan Parham, Jackson Powers-Johnson, DJ Glaze, Armand Membou, that's a top 10 offensive line, and that's something that I'm going to buy into. The Athletics' Dane Brugler has this to say on Membou. Membou might not have ideal height for a tackle, but he plays long with exceptional control and finishing skills. His tools remind me of Troy Fautanu from the 2024 draft class, and all the talent is there for him to become a long-term NFL starting tackle. The name that he mentions there I do find to be very interesting because it's not the first time that that name has been brought up to me. And what's also very interesting about Troy Fautanu, last year was on Washington. Brandon Carroll, also the offensive line coach in Washington last season. And I know that this is somebody that also is going to have a lot of say of what the Raiders can do in that run game. Maybe it's Ashton Jeanty. I decided to go with Armand Membou because I think that he is the best player for the Raiders at number 6. Let's now go to round 2 here, pick number 37. And there was a lot of talent that ended up flying off the board way earlier than what I originally thought. Like Trevion Henderson went off the board. A lot of the running backs went very early where I sat here and I go, all right, if running backs are going to go early, and if I anticipate that there's going to be a run on wide receivers like it was reported by Adam Schefter, well then I'm going to go out and I'm going to get a wide receiver that I think would be a phenomenal fit with Geno Smith. And I'm going to go Jaden Higgins. In my mind, if you're adding Jaden Higgins with Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, I mean, that is a really, really talented three-headed monster that I think would do really well with somebody along the lines of Geno Smith. Now, I know Tom's not as high on Higgins is what some other people are out there, but I think that he's a really good player, and I think he's really good, great in contested catch spots due to his size, radius, 6'7" wingspan, great hands, only 3 drops over the last 2 seasons, and I know that Geno Smith is going to be able to put the ball on target, which I'm telling you is going to help him. Not the quickest route runner, but he does run a complete route tree, and when I went back and I watched Geno, wide receivers that were able to run a complete route tree with solid hands always proved to be solid options for Smith. Last season, had 87 catches on 129 targets, 9 touchdowns, 1,183 receiving yards. Also, watch out for Jalen Noel, his teammate at Iowa State. I think could also be an intriguing option for the Las Vegas Raiders. But off the start, I ended up going with Armand Membou. I ended up going with I ended up going with Jaden Higgins. And in this route, I would say it's Jacoby Myers is still the number 1. Jaden Higgins is number 2, and now this allows Trey Tucker to be his original spot, which I think is a slot receiver or just a deep option. I will also go out here and I'll say by adding him, I could still see the Raiders going out and getting a Tyler Lockett, also potentially going out and still getting a receiver along the lines of a Keenan Allen, maybe even somebody along the lines of a Robert Woods, just due to the connections with Raiders wide receiver coach Chris Beatty. So we got Armand Membou in round 1. Jaden Higgins in round 2, and I'll be real, I based on now the way that I saw that the mock went, I don't know if I would have went wide receiver as early as I did. I might have gone like a guy like a Carson Swessinger, but when I took Higgins in this mock, it was crazy how many wide receivers flew off the board. Let's go to round 3. Let's go to pick 68. And I was sweating in my boots that I wasn't going to be able to get this guy. And I saw him falling. And finally, he fell to the Raiders at pick 68. And I'm going to go Caleb Johnson, running back from Iowa. And I know when I started this mock draft, I thought to myself, if I end up passing on Jeanty, Mitch, you better be able to get a running back with some value. And there was a part of me where if Caleb Johnson's not available at 68, and I'll be real, I don't know if he's going to be available at 68 in the actual NFL draft. I might have panicked a little bit more on this, but Johnson is one of the running backs. Him and Jeanty are the only 2 running backs that the Silver and Black met with for top 30 visits. And then when you combine the fact that I do think he's an explosive runner who's got really good vision and patience. You combine that with a really good offensive line. I like the duo there. And then you combine that with Raheem Mostert, who's more of the home run hitter. I could see that running back duo really working out well for the Silver and Black. On top of the fact that, when you draft Membou over Jeanty, you're anticipating that Membou is going to be your offensive lineman for 10 to 12 years. I don't know if I can rely on Jeanty for being somebody, for 6 to 8 years. He did show better pass catching value with only 7 catches, but lacking that top-end speed and true shiftiness does hurt his value. But when you look at the running backs that Pete Carroll has drafted in years past, I think Caleb Johnson is an interesting fit there. Let's go to the Athletics' Dane Brugler, what he has to say on Caleb Johnson. Johnson isn't a dynamic, make-you-miss athlete, but he is a patient and powerful one-cut runner with the instinctive vision to create the defense using run angles and foot quickness. His play style is reminiscent of DeMarco Murray with a 3-down skill set to thrive in a zone-based NFL scheme. Chip Kelly is going to run a zone-based NFL scheme. So because of that fit, I was very, very happy. I'll be very transparent. Like I said, if I wasn't able to get Caleb Johnson, I think that this mock draft would have turned out not as good as what I think that a lot of you are honestly going to think that this mock draft turned out. So now we are through 3 rounds, and as you can see, It is all offense, dude. And that kind of makes me a little bit nervous because I didn't really anticipate going all offense early on. I kind of anticipated that I was going to be able to at least get some defensive player in my first 3 rounds. And honestly, again, I kind of wish that I had the ability to trade back a little bit because I want another pick in round 2 and round 3. Though, round 4, pick 108, I think that this is really good value. I'm going to go with cornerback Noel Williams from Cal. One of my favorite cornerbacks in this year's class. Somebody that I actually think is probably going to go in round 3 because he's got really good ball skills, 7 interceptions, 8 PBUs. Not the most athletic player, but is a really good cornerback, and I think would be a really good fit with Pete Carroll. The only problem I would say for the Raiders is they need more of a nickel, and they need somebody that they can use in the nickel where it's not really where I see Noel Williams playing. And because of that, Williams is going to go out there, he's going to compete with Jacory. He's going to go out there, going to compete with Eric Stokes. But mainly an outside corner with plenty of production, including 7 interceptions last season. Lacks elite strength and has been inconsistent as a run defender is what Tom says, but does offer press man ability in the NFL, which is something that I know Patrick Graham and Pete Carroll do value very, very much. Dane Brugler has this to say: Williams will need to prove he can overcome his average long speed against NFL competition, but there are far more pros than cons to his game, including his awareness, ball skills, physical play, demeanor. I think he'll stay at cornerback, but his game is reminiscent of another former Cal corner, Cam Bynum, who has found NFL success at safety. One of the top players that the Raiders were interested in this past year in free agency was Cam Bynum. And because of that versatility, there are some teams that wonder if Noel could be somebody that could be a free safety, cornerback hybrid. And if that's a role that the Raiders want to use, because I do think the Raiders still need a free safety, Noel Williams is one of my favorite cornerback prospects. And I would say that he'd be the number 2 corner next to Eric Stokes. You're not going to bump Jacory and Bennett. He was your top guy. But adding a little bit more depth in there, and then the nickelback situation, maybe it's not as big of a red flag. It's still a need. I almost wonder if the Raiders could use more like an Isaiah Paul-Amal as a nickel safety type of hybrid. Jeremy Chinn's going to be playing strong safety. If you haven't seen the video of Jeremy Chinn and how great shape that guy's in, all he does looks like he does is work out. Let's go to round 5, pick 143 here for the silver and black. And actually, before I get in to my round 5 pick, I do want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, and I haven't really talked about him in a while, but I got to show some love to Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app out there. Springtime is here and baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your Prize Picks lineup. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. On Prize Picks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports. Combine your favorite baseball players with players from basketball, hockey, esports, and much more. Download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits your account this sports season. Download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Now, I know that we've been kind of busting Jeremy's chops around his Rockets picks, and there is a lot of more on screen right now, which probably doesn't surprise anybody because Jeremy said Rockets in 5. There's 5 up here, and maybe that's the 5 he was talking about, because the only way Rockets in 5 is this 5 right here. Bottom line, though, is this. If you're going to end up watching a basketball game, and if it's the Dubs, if it's the Rockets, put a little bit of money, you're going to have a lot more fun watching the game. That I promise you. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. That link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments and in the description of today's show. Let's go to round 5, pick 143 here. And I'll say this, Armand Membou is a mix of everybody. I think Jaden Higgins is a mix of everybody. Caleb Johnson is a mix of everybody with Pete Carroll. This next pick here is a pick that I personally would go with, and it's Barrett Carter, linebacker from Clemson. He is an undersized linebacker, no doubt about it. But I think that he fits really well with Devin White, and I think that he fits really well with the Landon Roberts, because the Landon Roberts is a downhill thumper, right? Like, he's going to come downhill, and he's going to make you feel, right? Like, that guy is a walking hit stick. Devin White, I think, is a great athlete. could put him on the edge a little bit and allow him to be an edge and let him be an athlete. For Barrett Carter, because he's undersized, I could see him potentially struggling up against some legit NFL running backs out there. But what he does bring to the table is ability to cover. And he's got good sideline-to-sideline ability. And he is athletic enough where if used in the right way, he could also be used to get after the quarterback. But also because of the speed that he provides, at the linebacker position, you're starting to see more of these speedy linebackers be used in special teams, whether that be a gunner, whether it be on the new kick return rules. But somebody like Barrett Carter and his skill set, I do think pairs very well with Landon Roberts, pairs very well with Devin White, and kind of also is a better version of a Amari Gainer of some sorts, if you will. And because I know the Raiders like Gainer, could be somebody to keep in mind. Barrett Carter in round 5. Let's now go to round 6. The Raiders got 3 picks here in round 6, 4 left to go in total. And, you know, I've kind of gone all over the place. I started the draft out with 3 players on offense. Then I went 2 players on defense. And I'm just now looking for quality players that I believe that I can add value to. But I bet a lot of people are wondering, well, Mitch, you haven't taken a quarterback yet. And it sounds like the Raiders could end up taking a quarterback. My question to you is, give me a yes, give me a no. Will the Raiders end up drafting a quarterback? To me, the number 1 quarterback most likely that the Raiders draft is Quinn Ewers. And I will continuously sit up here and say that I believe it's Quinn. Now, I've seen reports that are like, oh, the Raiders are eyeing Quinn Ewers on day 2. If the Raiders draft Quinn Ewers on day 2, I am going to be extremely frustrated with this organization. I'll be real, I'm not even the biggest Quinn Ewers fan. But if you're telling me why the Raiders would go this route, a lot of Steve Sarkisian connections, and Steve Sarkisian and Pete Carroll, that relationship runs way deeper than I ever even originally realized. But because of Sarkisian and Carroll's relationship, there is a lot of hype right now around Quinn. But he also fits that 2 to 3 year window for Geno where you let Quinn learn for 2 to 3 seasons, and you can see what you get out of him. I'll admit, you know, Quinn in round 6, I don't know if he's going to be there. And I think quarterbacks in general, it's the debate of where do they go. Because if Tyler Shuck, Jalen Milroe, Shedeur Sanders, and all these guys are gone by the top 50 picks, Quinn's not going to be available to you at 180. But I wonder if this is the draft where there's always talk around quarterbacks going high. I almost wonder if this is like the draft a few years ago where like Malik Willis was being talked about going in the top 5 and he ends up sliding all the way down to round 3. I wonder if that's this type of season, but Ewers does have the arm talent. I think Ewers also is a really good fit in Chip Kelly's system. But do I think Quinn is ready to play right now? Do I think Quinn's even close to being ready? No, I do not. Quite frankly, I'd rather the Raiders draft Kyle McCord over Quinn Ewers. Let's go to round 6 now, 213 here on the board. And this is the part where I start looking at players that I know that the Raiders have met with, or I know that players at least would view them as being a good option. And Caleb Ransaw is going to be my pick here at 213. He is a safety cornerback hybrid, and he's just a great competitor out of Tulane. 31 tackles, 2 PBUs. He is a thicker, and I'll often say Amik Robertson just because I loved Amik Robertson coming out of college because that guy was a dog, and he's still a dog on that Detroit Lions defense. Caleb Ransaw is a thicker, less athletic Amik Robertson, but it gives you some ability to play up near the box. And because the Raiders right now biggest issue, I would say, at corner is the inability to have a nickel. I will admit, I don't know if Ransaw is going to be great against speedier players, but if you're looking for somebody that you're going to be able to insert, get some special teams value from, there are some people that actually think that Ransaw is a round 4, round 5 prospect, but not too many people know too much about him. You could use him at safety, you could use him at corner, and it's that versatility that he's going to be able to bring, which is really interesting. Now, one of the things that I was told over the weekend was the Raiders are going to look at players that are developed in one system. Like, what do I mean by that? A player that's maybe been out of Georgia, been out of Michigan, been at a program for multiple years, learns that program, because that stuff matters to Tom Brady, and it matters to Spytek a lot as well. I know that Ransaw spent his first few years at Troy and then ended up transferring to Tulane, but because of his versatility, because of his toughness, because of his will and want to tackle, that could be a reason why I could see him potentially being a round 6 pick here for the Raiders. Let's go to the final 6th round pick for the silver and black, and this is going to be at 215, and I've gone with this name before, And because versatility is so important and because the Raiders value the trenches, I'm going to end up going here with Jackson Slater, small school guy from Sacramento State. And this is also a player that the Raiders have held a top 30 visit with. This is somebody that they have met with multiple times this offseason. Definitely a little bit more, undersized in terms of what you typically see maybe in a guard at 6'3", 311. But when you're considering that the Raiders' offensive line meetings this offseason include these 7 names: Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks, Josh Connerly, Charles Grant, Jackson Slater, Caleb Etienne, Caleb Rogers. The only player that is no doubt a guard on that list is Slater. I will also say that I think Caleb Rogers ends up being a guard as well. Rogers played left tackle, left guard, and right tackle at Texas Tech. But Slater is a smaller school guy that I would say somebody could look at as being like a Jordan Meredith, where you're not really thinking very highly of them now, but because they have good footwork, because they have good technique, with the proper coaching, 2 to 3 years down the line, we could be sitting here going, you know what? Maybe we should give Jackson Slater a shot. Just like I know there's some Raiders fans out there going, you know what? Maybe we should give Jordan Meredith a shot. Let's go to round 7 now, 222, my final pick in my Raiders mock draft, my final mock draft. And this is going to be one that I'm just going to go with because I know the Raiders have been looking at this position. They've been looking at a nose tackle, and I'm going to go with Nazir Stackhouse from Georgia, who is just a mammoth of a human being at 6'3", 330 pounds. And one of the areas that I know the Raiders are looking at is interior defensive line. And I know for a fact that if Spytek was up here right now, he'd go, you can never have too many defensive linemen. You can never have too many guys in the trenches. And because they don't really have big-bodied defensive tackles, I mean, you really only have Wilkins, John Ulalu, and then Manoa are really what I would say they're only really, truly big, true nose tackles. And you're not even really paying Christian Wilkins to be that, right? You want Wilkins to be his best version of himself. The Raiders are looking for somebody that I think can eat up some double teams. And Nazir Stackhouse, if all he does is eat up double teams, then you know what? I don't give a shit if he doesn't have a single tackle. Eat up double teams, free up Wilkins, free up Kuntz, free up Tyree Wilson, free up Max Crosby, and that's a job well done as far as I'm concerned. So here is my final Raiders mock draft. 9 picks in total. I want you to give me a grade on it if you really could. I'd really appreciate it. Give me an A, B, C, D, or an F. So I ended up going with Armand Membou in round 1, Jaden Higgins in round 2, Caleb Johnson round 3, Noel Williams in round 4, Barrett Carter round 5, Quinn Ewers at quarterback, Caleb Ransaw at 213, Jackson Slater, Nazir Stackhouse, A, B, C, D, or F. When I look at this mock draft, in all honesty, I am going to give myself a A- grade. I love the Membou pick. I like the Jaden Higgins pick maybe more than some other people out there. I do really think I got really solid value in Noel Williams and Caleb Johnson. But there is a part of me where I sit there and I go, I kind of hate that I don't have a nickel starter. I kind of hate that, I don't feel like that I still have a true free safety overall. There's some good players, and I really try to stick to guys that I think love football, offer some versatility, and that the Raiders met with. But I want to know what y'all have to say. If this is what the draft is like, and we're about to find out in less, what is it? I'm recording this Tuesday. We're going to find out less than 48, 72 hours who the Raiders do ultimately go with. And I hope that you tune in for our live coverage of the 2025 NFL Draft. I'm going to be looking. Let's go to Timothy Bush. Build in the trenches, please, and draft Membou. I mean, it's exactly what I just did in that last one.
I was going to say, I'm guessing
this happened before.
I'm guessing Bush gave you a pretty good grade.
I'm guessing Timothy Bush did. Uh-oh. Apparently, Giannis enjoys New York. That's just popped up in my feed. Giannis reportedly enjoys New York, owns multiple businesses there, and is reportedly viewed by Brooklyn Nets as a prime target.
Interesting.
I'm happy that Dame's able to play. I'm excited to watch Dame. Longtime viewer of the Raiders Report. What up, Dame? Let's go to Mo. If the plan is Geno, why not keep Aiden as the backup quarterback on a rookie contract, not draft a quarterback this year, use the pick for another position, especially when the quarterback class is better next year?
We were actually talking about this in the office.
Yep.
Are we sure at this point that next year's QB class is going to be better? Because you think the top names that we were thinking that would make next year's class better, Nico Iamaleava, I'm a leaving.
Yep.
I don't know if he's the top pick anymore because of this stunt that he pulled this offseason.
Carson Beck.
The video of the Cavender twins saying that he's an awful human being.
And that all his teammates hated him.
I mean, and then Arch Manning, is he even going to come out in this draft next year? I think there's so many question marks going towards next year's draft. I still agree with you, Mo, and I see your point. I'm just saying, thinking of next year's QB class as better, I think we all kind of get wrapped up into this because we have to remember the way too early mock draft 2 years ago had
Spencer Rattler
going number 1 overall to the Houston Texans.
And I think the way too early mock draft for this year had Carson Beck going in the top 5. So, like, a lot of stuff can happen, right? And then there's, a Jaden Daniels randomly pops up. A Joe Burrow randomly pops up. A Cam Ward randomly pops up.
Is Drew Aller going to be that good going into next year's draft? Like,
no.
Could he be a top 10 pick?
He could be a top 10 pick. I think teams are going to look at Drew Aller like a Josh Allen and be like, this guy stinks in college, but I might be able to turn him into something pretty special. And Aller is a really good athlete. To me, though, I don't disagree with you. Like, if I was the Raiders, I would hang on to Aiden O'Connell and allow him to compete with the rookie quarterback if you end up bringing one in. And I agree with you. I think he's a good QB backup. I think that there's 2 big problems in this, though. Either A, I don't know if Aiden's value is ever going to be higher than what it is right now because he's already got 20 games under his belt, 17 starts. I don't know if Aiden starts 17 games for the rest of his career. And I don't even think that that's a bold statement to make. So if there's a team that's willing to offer you a 5th-round pick on somebody that you know for a fact isn't going to be a part of this organization longer than 2 years, maybe you just already decide to move on from him. And I'm telling you this right now, and I heard this from a very good source. The the Raiders want you to fall in love with Geno, and it's why I don't think that they're going to draft Shedeur Sanders.
Wow.
Right? Like, what?
Well, this is from a while ago, but a Patriots beat reporter is saying, I'm hearing multiple reports that a draft day trade is in place between the Bears and the Patriots, contingent on Hunter and Carter being on the board.
I think I saw that one earlier too, though, which I think makes sense. If one of those 2 players is on the board at 4, I think a bunch of NFL teams are going to be calling. I mean, if the Raiders don't call New England, and if Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are on the board at 4, I don't think that you're doing a good job. Like, whether or not you want to make the trade, you at least make the call to see what it's costing. But I'm telling you, the Raiders want the fan base, okay? I'm telling you, to buy into Geno Smith. And there are still fans out there, and I get it. Like, we've seen them, and every time I see somebody go, Aiden O'Connell's better than Geno Smith, it's the eye roll, right? You're like, this guy, and it is what it is. But because of that, I'll call it blind loyalty to AOC, like, that bothers some people in the Raiders organization. If the Raiders go out and they draft Shedeur Sanders, like, there's going to be an instant amount of fans that want the Raiders to start Shedeur over Geno. That bothers this organization. And, like, I think the people that want the Raiders to keep AOC might end up being the people that push AOC out the door.
This is wild. Stephen A. just put out his podcast, the title, My Thoughts on Shannon Sharp.
Yikes. I mean, again, Stephen A. knows what he's doing. How about that? People are going to click on it. Let's go to my man, John Scheffler. Love the jersey. Chugs, the Rockets good, but they can't shoot for shit.
I think you're saying Rockets good. Jalen Green couldn't shoot for shit. Dude had 5 points in the first half. Your leading scorer throughout the year ended the game with, 7, 8 points? Like,
I don't remember.
Dude, he sucked. He's got to be better. He must be better shooting the ball. We had so many wide open threes, him and Fred VanVleet, that they just missed.
Yeah, Warriors do not turn the ball. The offense will struggle. Fact, athletic team that can't shoot. I do think the Rockets maybe got their worst matchup in round 1 with the Warriors, who, I mean, they are clearly a better shooting team. But I'll also fire back with this. If Steph's going to make shots that he made, the Warriors are going to win. Again, if Steph's throwing up shots that are going in like that, the Warriors are probably going to end up winning. Also, got to give a lot of credit, I think, to Draymond. Draymond played a really good defensive game. And in the playoffs, it always amazes me how different playoff basketball is to regular season. It's why nobody watches the regular season. Guys are actually out there trying. But I would say the Warriors look like a team that entire game, cool, calm, and collected. The Rockets look like a team that you're like, you know what, we haven't been here before. And that's a big part of what playoff basketball is. What up, RaiderMan01, longtime watcher? I just did this mock. 1 Jeanty, 2 Booker, 3 Porter, 4 Royals, 5 Bassa. What do you think, Mitch? Just win, baby. I like this draft. Like, if you're telling me I get Ashton Jeanty, I think that you almost have to then try to address the offensive line. And Tyler Booker and Jeanty are a great duo to put next to JPJ. Love that. Darian Porter is slowly turning into one of my favorite cornerback prospects out of Iowa State. Long, lanky, athletic. Does fit, I think, what Pete Carroll would look for. Jalen Royals, I like him. I don't know if he's going to be available, I'll be honest, in round 4. And that's probably one of the reasons why I'm not as high on him, because I think he ends up going in round 3, and there's just better wide receivers, in my personal opinion, in that range. Round 4, though, at 108, though, some good value.
Yeah.
And then the linebacker from Oregon, if you can get him at 143, that's another guy that I think does end up going in round 4, but we see it all the time. This, to me, is a very good draft. You should be proud of yourself. Wow. What's up, Noah? A-, only problem is Ewers at quarterback. I'd rather no quarterback for real. Me too. There's a part of me where I say the exact same thing. However, though, there's not too many players, and this is where I would look at it like the car, like not Derek Carr, but like you're buying a car analogy, where Quinn Ewers, to me, if you end up drafting him, and it depends where you draft him. If you draft him round 2, round 3, I'm sorry, you're just not going to get the value for him. But if you draft Quinn Ewers on day 3, right, round 4, round 5 is where I honestly think he probably ends up going. I honestly think that you're going to be able to trade Quinn Ewers in 2 to 3 years down the road for a 5th-round pick, even if he never steps foot on the field. And there's not too many teams or not too many players where you can say that about them. And I only say that because somebody's going to look at Quinn Ewers and they're going to go, he's a young quarterback, got a rocket of an arm, and he's learned underneath Chip Kelly, Tom Brady, John Spytek, Pete Carroll, and he's been able to learn for 2 to 3 years. There will be a team that says, I value that, especially because Steve Sarkisian is very well known for developing quarterbacks, and there's going to be a lot of talk around Arch Manning. And because there's going to be a lot of talk around Arch Manning, the other quarterback people are going to mention is Quinn Ewers, and Quinn's going to be able to stay in the limelight. So all I would say is this: there's not too many players that you're going to be able to draft and then potentially trade them for the exact same value that you drafted them for 2 to 3 years down the road, even if they never touch the field. And that, to me, is why if they end up taking Quinn on day 3, I'm not going to hate the pick, but I think anybody that watches this show knows I'm not a Quinn Ewers believer. And you were saying it like somebody who's watched him as closely as you watched him can't win in the big game.
Yeah.
If you don't have the big game, Gene, not interested.
Yeah. I just don't.
To me, though, like Quinn Ewers, and maybe this is an unfair thing to say, kind of has a little bit of Derek Carr in him where you know for a fact is a really talented quarterback. Doesn't have the clutch gene. I also just I don't think that he has that like leader of men gene where Derek is an outstanding human being, but I don't think that Derek is the best leader of men. And maybe that's, again, an unfair statement to say, but, you see what's happening right now in New Orleans. You saw what happened with the Raiders. It's kind of, I think, hard to not say that as well.
Also, before, I don't want to get us too far off, but I just got a targeted ad, and they're hitting me hard on this, Mitch. Apparently, Buffalo Wild Wings all this week, dine-in only, all you can eat wings and fries.
Interesting. That sounds really good.
$20.
They're trying to get you there.
All you can eat wings and fries.
Damage.
How many wings do you think you could take down
from Buffalo Wild Wings?
If you went there like tonight or tomorrow night?
No doubt 30. That's if I'm going in with the mindset I'm crushing some wings. No doubt 30.
Bad news for Petey.
No doubt 30.
Really bad news for Petey because he's been so strong. And I know he's a huge Buffalo Wild Wings stan.
Mm-hmm. So Alex and I, we went to a place yesterday after we got our marriage license, and we went to it's called like Lalo or Lalo or something like that in Dallas. On Wednesdays, they do, I think it's wine and pizza for $25. Like, it's a really good deal. I was blown away by some of the deals that they have. They have all-day happy hour on Monday, which Alex and I took advantage of that a little bit yesterday. I'm not going to lie to you. We got after a little bit. I mean, we got our marriage license and we celebrated.
Saying 40, 50 wings. I feel like people underestimate how many wings they could eat.
If it's bone-in, but like the most wings I've ever eaten Like, I've done the 50 McNugget challenge. In college, I ate 72 wings, but that was a lot of wings. They were bone-in, though.
Petey, you've been so strong lately. Did you see what I put in chit chat?
Dude, I did.
All you can eat wings. Back in your heyday, if you saw that, how many wings do you think you're taking down at Buffalo?
You know, I did a Bills Broncos wing challenge and Denver lost. I was eating a lot of wings. Like, I don't know what the criteria was. I got to like wing 29. And I was a real
29? Because people in here are thinking they could eat 60 wings.
Absolutely. Look back. I was supposed to eat 35 wings.
See, that's easy.
You think 35's easy?
I was sweating.
35, I don't think would be that hard.
Oh,
Bone in or bone out would be easier.
I think bone out.
The thing with like the bone in is it requires more physical work.
I was going to say, I ate,
Just like 2 bites and out of the next.
so the wings that we did in Vegas, I ate 37 in 12 minutes. But those were also, do you remember how hot they were?
They were steaming hot.
They were steaming hot. See you, buddy.
Later, Petey.
Also, Chef said you forgot his Mount Raider more. Next time. Next time, Chef.
That's on me.
That's on us.
Sorry. I'm moving over all the draft graphics, so we have a ton more stuff in here.
Yep. Sorry, Chef. That's on us. But it's also probably because you said Rockets, and Jeremy was like, F this guy. Chef, it's all love, man. James K, kind of out on Higgins. Rather have Noel at 37. I don't want to say that I'm out on Higgins. I like Jaden Higgins, obviously. I also like, Jalen Noel. If you told me, though, like, if the Raiders had to pick more in, like, the 40 to 50 range, I would be more confident in Noel, where I did a video before saying the number one receiver most likely the Raiders will draft is Jalen Noel. It's because I thought he'd be available in round 3. I don't know. He's not going to be available in round 3. I don't know if he gets past pick 60 at this point. There will be a run on wide receivers. Guaranteed. Ed Robbins, what's up, my man? Chugs, the original Shield was ECW, Sandman, Sabu, and Tommy Dreamer. I have no idea.
Watched them as a kid. Tommy Dreamer was a crazy dude. Sandman reminds me of like Trivan or Navman, where he would come in just with like a bamboo kendo stick,
okay,
like those bamboo swords, and a beer, and would literally just like hit himself, hit the beer can, and just he would go wild.
All right, hey, Ed, appreciate you. Mike Washburn, what's going on, my dude? Not sure if this had come up, but what if Sanders and Jeanty are both gone at 6? Who should we draft? I promise you this, Shedeur Sanders will be available at pick number 6. And I just think Raiders fans just got to get on board. Again, if you're a Shedeur fan, I wish the best for Shedeur. I won't be mad if the Raiders end up taking him, but at this point, I mean, I'm not kidding you. There is a chance Shedeur Sanders falls out of round 1. Like, I said this today, the video I put out this morning. Do you think Shedeur, Y for yes, N for no, goes in the top 16 picks? If you were a betting man right now.
I would say no. Because the only option I think for him was the Saints at 9.
And it sounds like they like Dart more.
But past that.
All right, let's go 24. Y for yes, N for no. Do you think Shedeur goes in the top 24?
I mean, at that point,
to me, I think
Steelers or trade up.
See, I don't know if the Steelers do. There's a lot of rumors right now that the Vikings could trade out around 124.
Yeah.
The Rams at 26 could trade out. And those would be right now the spots where if the Bills are another team, if Shedeur's not taken by pick 26, dude, I don't know, man. I really don't.
Big Luck says.
See, DD Natman says Steelers move up. But if the Steelers had a horrible meeting with Shedeur, and if Shedeur turned them off, because the other thing that Schefter said, which I thought was interesting, and he mentioned the Pittsburgh Steelers by name, he was like, if you're a team and, you're not sure if you're a head coach and you're going to be back next season, I know Mike Tomlin's been there forever, but there are a lot of Steelers fans, I'm telling you right now, that kind of want to move on from Mike Tomlin just because they win in the beginning of the year, they don't win at the end, and then they struggle in the playoffs, or, I get they haven't had a losing season, but the Steelers fans, they haven't accomplished anything in a very long time. Whatever team ends up drafting Shedeur Sanders, that head coach better know for a fact that his job is secure, because I know Deion just signed that deal at Colorado.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. If that team struggles, that fan base is going to be calling for Deion. And Shedeur's going to have the cojones to go up to that team and go, I want you to hire my dad.
Yeah.
I do think that is an element that people are not talking about nearly enough.
Big Luck asked, what's your favorite Buffalo Wild Wing sauce? I'm not going to lie, Big Luck, I'm more of a Wingstop guy, if we're being completely honest.
What are the flavors?
I'm looking at them right now. They have the Blazin'.
The Blazin'?
They have a wild sauce, mango habanero, lemon pepper, hot, original.
I love mango habanero, but I have to eat it with ranch.
Yeah, I've had the Caribbean one, not bad. I would say for me it would be spicy garlic, Asian zing.
Ooh, Asian zing.
Original buffalo, barbecue, Parmesan garlic. Are mine, or I'm going maybe like a lemon pepper.
Lemon pepper I love. Garlic parm is always a solid. Mango habanero is all. Though anything Asian, I always get an Asian wing.
I love Asian
anything. Giggity. I got two more supers. We'll get to them after the next segment. So Noah, Thaddeus, I see you. I will get to it here in just a moment. I do want to get through our final segment here on today's show, which is going to be around players that I could see the Raiders taking in round one. Then we're going to answer the super chats. We're going to answer all those questions, and then we're going to hop on out of here. So once you get that set up, we will
should be good to go. Also, third sponsor on today's show.
Yep.
Mondo.
The graphic you have is not the right one. On the other screen.
Are you talking about this one?
Oh, okay. Now we're good. Now we are good. Wingstop is too salty from Big Luck. I actually don't disagree that it's salty, but I love salt.
I love Wingstop. I
do too. The ranch at Wingstop, though, I do think if you told me I can't get Wingstop ranch, it's kind of like Cane's sauce to me. Not nearly as good.
I agree with that. Usually, if I'm going fast casual, for me, it's Wingstop. If I'm going if I'm going to sit down somewhere, I'm a big Pluckers guy, which I don't know if you've had Pluckers.
I love Pluckers.
Oh.
There used to be where I used to work out when I first moved down here, there was an LA Fitness right next to a Pluckers. I'm not going to lie. There'd be some times I'd go in that Pluckers and I'd F it up a little bit.
Pluck around a little bit.
Pluck around and find out. And you know what? We're about to pluck around and find out. The next segment coming up here on today's show is going to be around players that I could see the Raiders targeting in round one of the 2025 NFL Draft. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And coming up on today's show, I'm going to tell you which players the Las Vegas Raiders, Pete Carroll, John Spytek, could potentially draft in the first round of the 2025 NFL Draft. I'm going to tell you which players they could take at number 6, which players they might try to trade back for, and which players they might try to trade back up in to round 1 for. Friendly reminder that we will be live Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific, and we're going to be breaking down every single pick from the 2025 NFL Draft. If you're a Raiders fan and you bleed silver and black, hope they end up pulling up here because we will be the number 1 most watched Raiders draft show in the entire world. If you bleed silver and black and you're not here, I don't even know if you're a real one. Let's go to the pick 6 candidates. To me right now, and the way that I thought about doing this show over the course of the week, the amount of times that I've been asked, Mitch, who do you think the Raiders are going to take in round 1 at pick number 6? I'm going to tell you all right now, I believe that there are only 4 names possible that the Raiders could go with at pick number 6. The first name I'm going to bring up is Ashton Jeanty, running back for Boise. And I know there's going to be a lot of people watching this show that this is the route they want the Raiders to potentially look at. He's the number 1 running back in this year's class. I think he does a lot of things extremely well. The Raiders, for a fact, do love him a lot. He's a home run hitting threat that I do think has some upside as well in the passing game. He just needs to be able to get some more reps at it. The Raiders had a top 30 visit. They had a formal combine meeting with him, pro day visit. John Spytek, Raiders running back coach, ended up meeting with Boise State head coach and Jeanty after his pro day. Brennan Carroll, the Raiders offensive line coach, also is in charge of the running game, and I would imagine Pete wants to make his kid look a little bit better. The Athletics' Dane Brugler has this to say on Jeanty. Jeanty displays exceptional contact balance, run instincts, and versatility in the passing game. Reminiscent of LaDainian Tomlinson, he has the talent to emerge as a high-level running back early in his NFL career. When you're taking a running back at pick 6, you anticipate that this is going to be somebody that you can rely on and really run into the ground. And I know that the Raiders view Ashton Jeanty as somebody like that. Spytek, I think, still loves Jeanty a lot more than what some other people might say. Let's go to another player here that's going to be on the Raiders' radar at number 6. It's Armand Membou, and he played right tackle the past 3 seasons, so you would be able to put him at right tackle, though there are some people that think that he could potentially play left tackle because of his overall upside and athletic ability. He loves to compete. He loves to absolutely embarrass people, and I do think when you look at his athletic build, it is very close to somebody like a Tristan Wirfs, who John Spytek also drafted in Tampa Bay in round 1. Now, I know that Adam Schefter, over the past, I'd say 72 hours, and at the time that I'm making this video, we're talking now past 4 or 5 days, that the conversation around Schefter talking about Membou has grown significantly. And anytime Schefter starts talking about something, the nation needs to listen, because Schefter's been very well tied with this organization. He was one of the people who are saying they're not going to go out and get Ben Johnson, and everybody for the Raiders was like, oh no, Ben Johnson's going to be an option. Schefter's been very, very loud about the Raiders and Membou. Spytek also hinted that they could use one of their 9 picks, also didn't commit to DJ Glaze. And if you don't know, Spytek loves offensive linemen. You probably live underneath a rock. So now I want you to look into your crystal balls and tell me, this will be the pinned comment on today's show, who do you think the Raiders will end up drafting at pick number 6 of the 2025 NFL Draft? My answer coming up after this YouTube ad break. If it was up to me, I'd go Armand Membou, but I'll sit up here and I'll continuously say the top 3 players most likely that the Raiders pick at 6, it is Ashton Jeanty, it is Armand Membou, and it is also Mason Graham, defensive tackle from Michigan. And I love his first step. I love his ability to see plays very, very quickly. He sheds blocks, he takes on double teams, and you can never have too many defensive linemen. The wrestling background, Chugs and I always talk about WWE. You could tell that Mason Graham has a high school wrestling background because guy just dominates in the trenches. The Raiders held a top 30 visit with him. They also met with him at the NFL Combine. Does have a lot of Michigan ties with Brady, has a lot of Michigan ties to John Spytek. And if you're telling me what this Raiders organization has done, they've done their best to make sure Max Crosby is a happy individual. You add Mason Graham, there's no way that Max Crosby is going to be upset about the way that this offseason has gone, and the Raiders do clearly value trenches. The Athletics' Dane Brugler says that Graham is a leverage monster and skillfully destroys blocks with his strength, quickness, motor, and play recognition to make an impact versus both pass and run. He projects as a versatile interior presence with the floor of an NFL starter. I will say that if you were to tell me out of Armand Membou, out of Ashton Jeanty, out of Mason Graham, who do I think is the safest player from that mix? I think it's Mason Graham. And I only say that because when you have a motor like Max and you're able to add interior defensive line with already the talent we have on top of Rob Leonard, Mason Graham to me might be the safest pick that they could go with. Though, I do want to throw out one more name here that, based on what we've been hearing, I think could end up actually being gone at pick number 4 to the New England Patriots. But if he's available, Will Campbell will also be another player on the Raiders' radar. And I know that he looks like an offensive tackle, but the T-Rex arms are scaring some teams away, and maybe some teams view him as an offensive guard. I think he's amazing in the run game, amazing as a pass blocker, might be the most pro-ready offensive lineman in this year's draft. I do think that his floor is safer than Armand Membou, but his ceiling is not nearly as high as what Membou's is. The other reason why, though, you got to bring up Will Campbell is because the Raiders didn't have a pro day visit, didn't have a top 30 visit, didn't have a combine visit with Membou. They did have a top 30 visit with Will Campbell. They did meet with him at the NFL Combine. And if we're going to say all these things that we have been saying around John Spytek with Membou, I think you also got to be able to bring it up with Will Campbell. The problem is, where exactly do you put him? Because if you're drafting him now, you're probably drafting him at left guard to put next to Kolton Miller. But what if he's your replacement for Kolton Miller if you don't end up extending him? Dane Brugler had this to say: Campbell's mediocre arm length lessens his margin for error, but his athletic movements, core strength, and competitive finish help him stay connected through the whistle regardless of the block required. His skill set is reminiscent of a more powerful version of Colts left tackle Bernard Raymond, although some NFL teams project him best as an interior blocker. So I'm sitting up here telling all y'all right now, the 4 players that I believe are the most likely to be the Raiders' pick at number 6, Mason Graham, Ashton Jeanty, Armand Membou, tier break, Will Campbell. Let's now go to the players that if the Silver and Black were to trade back, and I'll admit, Schefter did report on, I want to say it was Monday or Tuesday, that he didn't view the Raiders as a trade back team, but if you get a good offer, anything's going to be potentially on the table. I'll tell you which players could potentially make you trade back, and I don't know about you, the NFL draft, I am going to be sweating it the entire time. Luckily, our sponsor, Mando, is going to help me not stink because you can control body odor anywhere with Mando. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates over 40% off your starter pack. Use code CHAT at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. Spring is in the air and it's warming up, which means Chuck walks, Alex date nights, and me prepping for my wedding in June. Mando controls odor for 72 hours. It's clinically proven. Clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. 12 hours after a shower, the average man's Grundle odor level was a 5 out of 10. With Mando, the average Grundle odor level was a 0 out of 10. I like using Mando because I sweat literally all the time, and because it's a full body deodorant, I can take it with me on the go. I can use it on my pits, my package, my Grundle, my balls, belly button, butt cracks, stinky crevices, stomach folds, and feet. Mando starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free byproducts of your choice. As a special offer for our listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates over 40% off your starter pack. Use code CHAT at shopmando.com. Please support the Raiders Report. Tell them that we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. All right, let's talk about some players here that the Raiders could potentially be looking at if they trade back. Reminder, this is round 1 draft targets. I don't think that the Raiders are going to draft any of these other players that I'm about to mention at number 6. I have been surprised before, but I do also know that the Raiders do have players that they are looking at in round 1, and I think they're looking at them just in case they do end up trading back. First player I'm going to talk about here is defensive back Jahdae Barron from Texas, and a true Swiss Army knife. And for the Raiders, you're looking for a nickel corner, and I still think that you're looking for a free safety. Jahdae Barron can play both of those positions, and I do think that he's a quicker than fast athlete, but has great instincts. Coaches rant and rave about how versatile that he is, and he can defend a run, he can defend the pass, he can go out there and he can blitz. The Silver and Black didn't meet with him at the NFL Combine, and because Pete Carroll loves defensive backs that have versatility, and because Patrick Graham loves versatility in general, Barron is going to be a player to keep in mind. I will also say this. I thought Barron really held his own against Ohio State, a team that Chip Kelly obviously has a lot of ties with. And when you look at that game, Ohio State and Texas, Jahdae Barron was one of the better players in that game. In terms of the Athletics' Dane Brugler, he has this to say. Barron doesn't have the top-tier size that most teams prioritize at the position, but he trusts his instincts and competes with the toughness and ball skills to hold up versus pass or run. Some teams view him as a nickel-only prospect, while others see his value to play multiple positions across the secondary. There are going to be some teams that have Barron as the number 1 overall corner. There's going to be some teams that have Will Johnson as the number 1 overall corner, which is exactly where we're going here next. Big, long, athletic corner, which I know Pete Carroll loves. I will say his biggest weakness is his recovery speed, and you know, the 40-yard time, it's a concern for some people. The injuries are a concern for some people with Will Johnson. But when you look at just the tape from 2022, 2023, and in 2024, I believe Will Johnson is the best cornerback in college football through those 3 seasons. They had a top 30 visit with him, had a formal combine meeting with him. Also, a lot of ties to Tom Brady, John Spytek, Pete Carroll's got his, cornerback ties. But then also I was told, and this is, again, we sent a team to Chat Sports to the Combine. One of our Combine sources told me that the Raiders asked Mason Graham about Will Johnson. And for whatever reason, that has just stuck with me, because if you really want to know a player, ask his teammates about him. And that's what the Raiders did. Will Johnson is more good than great in terms of twitch and speed, but he has outstanding eyes, feet, and coverage IQ to match and make plays on the football. he projects as a day one starting outside cornerback in the NFL. Honestly, when I think about the best version of Will Johnson, kind of reminds me of Richard Sherman, a player where, again, wasn't like an outstandingly crazy athlete, but you just knew when he was on the field, he was going to lock down one side, and he loved football. Will Johnson loves football. Let's go to another player that I think would surprise some people if the Raiders picked him at number 6, but I'm telling y'all right now, I don't think that the nation realizes how much the Raiders like Jalen Walker, outside linebacker from Georgia. And because he's an outside linebacker prospect that offers you a lot of versatility, whether it's being able to get after the quarterback, whether it's go against the run, drop back into coverage, like I have thrown out the names like Kyle Van Noy, Andrew Van Ginkel before on this show, and Jalen Walker isn't either of those players, but he's kind of like that style of you can do a lot of different things with him, and because he comes from a program like Georgia, and because scouts have said his leadership is famous in the Georgia building, that means a lot to the Raiders. I was also told over the weekend that one of the things that the Raiders will look for when drafting this year is players that were built in a program. And if you're a Raiders fan, you're going to know what I'm saying exactly when I say this. Think about how many times Tom Brady has talked about why he is the quarterback that he is and how he was able to get better and build himself in Michigan, where he was able to learn what it takes to be, successful in a program. John Spytek comes from that exact same mentality. And right now you're seeing a lot of kids, they transfer, they go around, they're not learning what it takes to be a team. The Raiders right now are trying to find guys that know what it takes to be a part of a team, to build something special, and they think a guy like Jalen Walker could potentially be that player. Walker doesn't have elite size for edge work, but he is at his best using his long, sleek athleticism to explode downhill and close at top of his rush to affect the quarterback. There is a projection involved with his evaluation, but his pass rush upside and overall versatility make him one of the best talents in this year's class. And because the Raiders have been looking at edge prospects, they've been looking for a Caleb Chase replacement. Patrick Graham a few years ago drafted an Azeez Ojulari out of Georgia. And again, not same style of player overall, but Jalen Walker hype has been around for a long time. And if you were to ask me which player do I think the Raiders could take at 6, that would be like the most shocking pick overall. My vote would be Jalen Walker. I'm just hoping that it wouldn't be the pick at 6. It would be a pick if the Raiders ended up trading back. Let's now go to the players that I could see the Raiders trading back up into round 1 for. Before, though, I get into that list, the number one thing that I think that always can screw up the NFL draft is quarterbacks and where exactly quarterbacks are going to go. And some of you are probably watching this video going right now like, well, wait a minute, you didn't mention Shedeur Sanders. You're right. I don't think that there's any chance in hell the Raiders take Shedeur Sanders at pick number 6. I don't think there's any chance in hell if the Raiders were to trade back, the Raiders take Shedeur Sanders. I don't think Shedeur goes in the top 16 picks. So with that mindset, will the Raiders draft a quarterback in round 1? I want you to type D for draft. I want you to type P for pass. My answer is this. I know for a fact the Raiders will not take a quarterback at number 6, but maybe they end up taking one in the back end of round 1. I still don't expect the Raiders to take a QB in round 1 because I know that they've been linked to multiple names out there, and I would say that there is a chance Cam Ward is the only QB that gets taken in round 1. But watch out for teams like Minnesota. Watch out for a team like the Rams and the Bills. They could potentially trade back. But the quarterbacks right now, Shedeur, Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shough, all 4 of these guys can go in round 1. All 4 of these guys also can fall out of round 1. The reason why that I bring up those names is because I don't see the Raiders trading into the back end of round 1 for any 4 of those quarterbacks. I know, might surprise some people. If Shedeur's on the board at pick 32, I don't think that the Raiders try to trade back up and go get him. I think the Raiders are very content potentially getting a quarterback a little bit later on, like on day 3, because they believe in Geno Smith so much. But to me, there are 3 players that if they start falling down the board, the Raiders are going to pick up the phone and they're going to call. The first guy, Emeka Egbuka. And, I said this on our live show on Tuesday. If Egbuka and Tetairoa McMillan were both available at 37, obviously never going to happen. But because of the Chip Kelly ties, I think that they would go with Emeka Egbuka. This is a player that this organization loves. And they also love him, though, because of the Chip Kelly ties, but it's also because Egbuka really does remind me of a Jackson Smith and Jigba, who Geno Smith had a great relationship with in Seattle, and the fact that he can do a lot of these different things, run a complete route tree, and loves to be able to block, just does a lot of different things for you. That is very valuable to the Raiders, and, it showed up last season with Ohio State. He was not the best receiver for the Buckeyes, but he ended up being a really good 2. Jacoby Myers, Emeka Egbuka, Brock Bowers, good luck defending that. Let's go to another player here that this has been a name. Again, I am recording this on Tuesday when we go live. This was a name that was mentioned to me on Sunday, Mykel Williams, and it's another edge from Georgia. Not somebody that they're looking at very high, but this is a player. If he starts falling down the board, the Raiders will be a team that does come calling. He is a high-quality run stopper with great power, strong bull rush. Physical skill set is there, but the pass rush production, will it arrive? I'm not sure. Because the Raiders believe in Rob Leonard, I could see them potentially roll with a guy like Mykel Williams. Now, he is raw, and there's no doubt about it. Very, very raw. And when you see the athletic ability, you're going, am I about to get myself into another Tyree Wilson? Because that's kind of what Mykel Williams reminds me of, is another like Tyree Wilson, where you know he's super athletic. And yet the production just doesn't quite line up. The final player that I'm going to bring up here is a name that Raiders fans got to start recognizing. It's Kelvin Banks Jr. And most recently, Albert Breer said that he's heard the Raiders could even take him at number 6. I would be shocked, and I get it, because he's a left tackle. He's not better than Will Campbell. He's not better than Armand Membou. Some people do view him as a guard overall, and because some teams view him as a guard, maybe he slides in the draft. But I also know there's a lot of teams that view him as a starting left tackle. Because there are legit conversations right now around the Raiders being interested in him, if Banks does start to slide down into the later 20s, and if the Raiders do end up drafting Ashton Jeanty and they pass on an Armand Membou, they pass on a Will Campbell, keep an eye out there for Kelvin Banks. Again, a lot of Steve Sarkisian connections, and Pete Carroll really does value what Sarkisian has to say. Banks doesn't have ideal length and needs to improve his sustained tactics to be a consistent finisher against NFL talent, but he has controlled footwork and depth in his pass sets, plus the fundamental know-how to fit and leverage blocks and keeps defenders occupied. He projects as an immediate NFL starter who can stay at tackle, although his best long-term position might be guard. And there will be teams, because of that write-up, or because that teams view him as a guard, I do think Kelvin Banks is a player that honestly could go as high as, like, I've seen in the top 10. I think he could also, though, slide down the board a little bit. And for the Raiders, they like Kelvin Banks Jr. It's a name that you got to keep in mind. So the way that I'm going to end this video is this. I have ranked the top options for the Raiders at pick number 6 based on what I believe. I will still say that Ashton Jeanty is the number 1 most likely option for the Raiders. I will then go with Armand Membou at number 2, Mason Graham at number 3, Will Campbell at number 4, Jalen Walker at 5, Will Johnson at 6, Jahdae Barron at 7, trade back at number 8. If you disagree with anything that I say, you can always yell at me on social media at Mitchell Renz 365. And a friendly reminder again, we will be live for the NFL Draft, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific. If you're a Raiders fan and you want to hang out with us for the entire draft, every single pick, and I mean all picks in the NFL Draft, not just the Raiders, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure your notifications are turned on. Man, I am sweating right now, which I don't sweat too often on this show. Maybe it's the Molly. Will the Raiders draft a quarterback in round 1? Type D for draft, type P for pass. Will the Raiders draft a quarterback in round 1?
No chance. I don't think so.
I don't either. But then again, we've been wrong before. If Tom Brady and Mark Davis go up to Spytek and Carroll and they go, you're drafting Shador. I mean, Brady's going to be in the war room. How much say does he have? Type D for draft, type P for pass. Let's go to Mike. What up, man? Not sure if this had to come up, but what if Sanders and Jeanty are both gone at 6? Who should we draft? Armand Membou would be on my pick. Easily. Noah, what up, man? Mitch and Chugs, for $5 million, would you use your imagination? I need a yes or a no.
I'm going to go with yes.
I'm also going to say probably. I mean, $5 million bucks. My only fear is that the $5 million is in regards to another number, which I don't know if I would do that with you. I'm just saying. Thaddeus.
For $5 million?
I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could put your...
Be a man.
Be a man. Thaddeus. Love Milrow as a prospect. Agree. Just not crazy early. Also, to answer the top drink question for the other day, Geyer's iced tea. Mitch knows what I mean.
Do you?
Geyer's iced tea. I don't know if I do, man. The only iced tea, maybe if I saw the logo. I'm actually surprised. It's available in Schuylkill County. It's called Tamaqua, PA, which I know where this area is. I'll be real, though. Oh, I actually do know this logo. So just because, like, near me, Turkey Hill's, like, really popular, I didn't really drink too much of it, but I do know which iced tea you're talking about now. I know it by the logo. My dad, though, was a big Turkey Hill fan. Though it made news the other day. They're ripping down the Sheets in my hometown. Going to build a new one, and they're putting in a Wawa. Wawa in my hometown, it's going to move mountains, man.
Yeah.
I might go to Danville just to go to Wawa.
Yeah?
Wawa and Wawa's the best.
Better than Buc-ee's.
You can't compare the two.
Why not? They're both gas stations.
They're not comparable. It's not, dude. It's literally like comparing D1 to FCS. I mean, Buc-ee's is clearly better. I wish I could come up with a better, there's nothing like a Buc-ee's. There isn't. I mean, now if we're talking like Wawa, Sheets, Quick Trip, all those, like racetrack, I mean, Wawa's clearly the best.
Yeah.
But again, I've not seen anything like a Buc-ee's. It's own. It's honestly its own realm.
Rebel, I've heard that before.
What?
Truck drivers hate Buc-ee's because they specifically say no, trucks, no 18-wheelers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that.
It's not a trucker-friendly parking lot, which I'm sorry, Rebel, I do understand because they are
very clean showers, though.
They are so busy.
Yeah.
That I feel like if you add 18-wheelers into that, there'd be so many accidents.
Yeah.
Just because there's so many people that are, there and going through the parking lot. I have a hard time driving my car through the parking lot.
Oh, sometimes, yeah. I can remember one year, Alex and I, we tried to go down to Austin, and we brought Chuck, and there was, some grass for him to go outside. I'm not kidding you, dude. The amount of other dogs using that grass area, I mean, there was 8 dogs, and not a very big area. And I'm going to say there was probably 200 cars in that parking lot.
Yeah.
It was crazy. What up, Patrick Roche? If the Raiders end up picking Jalen Walker somewhere, do you think he will be good at working side to side as a linebacker?
Your dad just commented, Buc-ee's best restrooms in the country.
They might be. They might be. Richie might come down here just to go to Buc-ee's. You're not drafting Jalen Walker to be a sideline-to-sideline linebacker. You're drafting Jalen Walker to, first off, his best quality is to get after the quarterback. Let him be an athlete. Let him go north and south and let him go out and get the quarterback. But he can drop back into coverage if need be. Again, I would use him the way a team would probably use an Andrew Van Ginkel, where you allow Ginkel to be predominantly a pass rusher. If you need him to use coverage, you drop back into coverage from time to time. If you need him to defend the run, right? You can drop back, have him defend the run. But his best quality is an edge rusher, getting after the quarterback. And I don't really think many people would disagree with that. That is the final super chat here on today's show, which means we're going to hop on out of here. This was an awesome program. We were live for 2.5 hours today. Shout out to all of y'all for making today's show a lot of fun. Had a lot of awesome questions. I'm excited for the NFL draft.
There's almost 600 people in here. Mm-hmm. Type me if you'll be here on Thursday.
You better be here on Thursday.
Type me if you'll be here on Thursday. If not, I'm so upset with you.
I'm not mad. I'm disappointed. There's and I get it, a lot of places you can watch the NFL draft. I hope that you guys pull up because it's going to be fun, right? And I also want a lot of the OGs that are here, a lot of the real ones, to also show, because right now we got, 600 people here watching. We're going to have, I bet you, 4,000, 5,000, 10,000 people watching at one time. And I want the real ones to show the new audience how we get down. What exactly we do here. Think of it as you've been to a Raiders games and somebody's coming to their first Raiders game. You would want them to know, where to go to tailgate.
Hey, buddy, it's third down. You need to stand up.
Exactly, right?
Start yelling.
It's it kind of reminds me when I was Christian in the Easter. It's the only time I would go to church growing up as a kid. And it's so obvious, when you don't go to church often, again, where I grew up, because it's a very old school church. Everybody knows the prayers. Everybody knows when to kneel. Everybody knows when to stand, all that. And you're sitting around, you're watching, you're like, oh, shit, all right, I think we're taking a knee now. That was me at all points. That's what I need you to be. I need you to help me because there's going to be some creasers here.
Jersey Boy, quickly before we head out, he said opinion on Danny Stutzman. I like him in round 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. What? Oklahoma
guy.
See, I think the problem with Stutzman, it's not that we don't like him. He's a downhill thumper to me, right? We already have downhill thumpers at linebacker. Now, if you could add him maybe to be a special teams guy, but I think we already have good depth at linebacker with Amari Burney, Amari Gaynor, Tommy Eichenberg. I don't know if I view any of those guys as a starter. I do think Stutzman, though, is better than most of those names.
I agree.
All right, y'all. I'll see you guys Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you tell your Raiders fans to turn up because we're definitely going to be turning up on Thursday.